It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott, Mary Jo Foley are here. It's the end of Windows 10X. What was it and what happened? A great deal on a Microsoft Duo phone, but you probably won't want to take it. And we introduce our newest Linux segment. It's all coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley. Episode 724, recorded Wednesday, May 12th, 2021. Maine Grapefruit. This episode of Windows Weekly is brought to you by Hover. Whether you're a developer, photographer, or small business, Hover has something for you to expand your projects and get the visibility you want. Go to hover.com/twit and get 10% off your first purchase of any domain extension for the entire first year. And by Melissa. Like expired milk, 30% of your customers' data goes bad every year. And that's money down the drain. Visit Melissa's developer portal for free access to data quality APIs, demos, and code samples. Freshen up your sour data today with 1,000 records cleaned for free at melissa.com/twit. And by Udacity. Gain in-demand tech skills in as little as 3 months with Udacity's part-time online tech courses. Visit udacity.com/twit and get 30 days free access to any one of over 60 courses. That's a $399 value. Just enroll by May 31st, 2021. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show where we cover the latest news from Microsoft. Paul Thurrott's here, Thurrott.com. His books are
I'll turn on the lights.
Turn on the lights. Everybody wants to see your shining face, Mr. T. Also with us, Mary Jo Foley of allaboutmicrosoft.com fame, the ZDNet blog. And we are ready to trip the light fantastic. All about Windows. And actually, we begin the day with a memoriam.
Right.
Wow.
Hardly knew you.
Mary Jo, you've been talking about Windows 10X
for a while,
as if it was going to happen.
I know.
Are you shocked?
Yeah. You know, in hindsight, I'm not shocked because it kept morphing so much, and Microsoft kept changing. Like, it's for this, it's for this. Now it's going to be this. Now we're going to position it like this. And then when we just stopped hearing about it this year, I was like, I wonder what's going on with Windows 10X, right?
Yeah, originally they said only dual screen devices.
Right.
The Neo, I guess. And then we don't know what the Neo sounds like. The Neo's also
on the back burner,
on
quote
the back
unquote.
Burner. Yeah. What is 10X though? And maybe this is my fault, but my understanding or my hope was it was a rewrite of Windows.
Oh, no.
No.
Oh, no. Don't be foolish, Neo.
No, that would require effort.
Let's start from the scratch and redo the whole thing right this time, now that we know what we know.
Well, okay, but to be fair, it was going to be one of the very first variants of Windows based on the Windows Core OS, WCOS, right? So it wasn't a complete rewrite of Windows by any means, but it was Microsoft trying to make Windows a little simpler, more lightweight, right? Be able to share more code with various versions of Windows so that there'd be more similarities and they could update it faster in theory. It would also be more secure because lots of things, almost everything basically was running in a container. So it sounded really good on paper, looked good on paper, but then nobody outside of Microsoft really saw it, I don't think.
Or they got such well, I think there were two things. First of all, it was never in a position to ship. It just wasn't of that quality and reliability, right? But I think PC makers too must have been like, seriously enough. You've given us Windows 10s/S mode. Nobody wants that. You've given us Windows 10 on ARM. Nobody wants that. How many Windows 10 somethings are they going to be? Like people just buy Windows computers. Those seem to work.
I know. I would love to have heard a conversation with an OEM where they went to them and said, hey, we want you to be one of the first ones to bring Windows 10X out on a PC. What do you think? And they showed it to them and said, here it is. And then they said, wait, what?
We've been down enough rabbit holes with you. I think we're going to let someone else take this one.
Yeah. I mean, I think the straw that kind of broke the camel's back was when they talked to us about it last February 2020, they were explaining how everything was going to run in containers, and even Win32 apps were going to miraculously run in containers. And then we heard, I heard, and I think Zach Bowden heard at Windows Central that, no, actually the Win32 thing's not working. So it's going to ship only with UWP apps and web apps. So I think then you take that to an OEM and you say, yeah, so you can't have Win32 apps on this side of the gate.
Didn't they came out and said that though, didn't they, Microsoft?
No, they never did say that.
Really?
Nope. They never said anything about Win32 not working. We just found out about it from our sources. They never acknowledged that it didn't work. But
in my head, that was just a fact. So,
yeah, I know. We all kept saying
a lot of that going around these days.
Taken as given.
Yeah. So I mean, they were self-hosting it inside, right? Microsoft was running. Some people were running this inside on Surface devices, but the goal of it was to only ship on new devices, not to work on devices that were already in market.
So a couple of points here, though. First of all, Mary Jo, as you know, no notepad. So, this is
right. That was already like, for me, like,
Who would use it if you didn't have notepad?
As you were talking, a thought occurred to me that I hadn't considered with regards to Windows 10X, which is that there were all kinds of internal problems, right? We've the compatibility, reliability stuff, performance with those containers, et cetera. Single screen to dual screen back to single screen. It's obviously been troubled. I feel like the success that now that having said all that, and just in listening to you, I was thinking, given how much success Apple has had with the M1 chip and translating x80, well, we call them x64 apps on the Mac, I think there's a higher bar now for this kind of thing. And and aside from all the normal issues, does the world need yet another mobile operating system? Does the world need another Chrome OS? Because you can make a logical case for it. I've sort of said something to the tune of, there probably are companies out there, educational institutions that want Chrome OS but don't want the Google stuff. Okay. But
so is this going the way of 10S? Is this just really, is that
no, because 10S is still around.
Windows 10 and S mode exists, and they ship product. OEM ship products with it. I see it like in SKU.
And by the way, I mean, anyone with Windows 10 could turn their computer into essentially being in S mode through a single option in settings, right? If you go to apps and settings, I'll just do it. Settings. I've never been here before. Apps, and then the top item on apps and features, which is the default view, says install apps only from Microsoft Store, or your other choices. And if you choose Microsoft Store only, that's S mode, basically, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I look at, I'll just say the stuff we've seen from Windows 10X recently, where it was going to be single screen based, has looked like a Chrome OS ripoff. I mean, there's no other way to say it.
Yeah.
And I don't think what companies or educational institutions are looking for is a version of Chrome OS that does less than Chrome OS, for one thing. And it would have been less. It can't run Android apps. So I don't know. It's clear this thing was never ready. And now you have to wonder if it's ever going to be ready. I think Mary Jo and I probably both believe it's not going to. This doesn't have to happen.
So just so people know, Microsoft, I don't know if this is official or not official, but if you look at recent history, like say since Satya has come on board as CEO, Microsoft never says anything is totally gone anymore, right? They say
which is what
it's
gets
on
us
the
into
back
trouble,
burner. Right. They'll say it's on the back burner, or maybe it will come to market someday.
No one is actively investigating this crime, but it's still unsolved.
Right.
We're not throwing it away.
Yeah, right. That's what they said about Andromeda. Remember when there was going to be the Windows based phone, and when they did shelve that, they were like, it's not coming to market now. No, it's not coming to market ever, right? But they just can't say that anymore. I don't think it's allowed. Like, I don't know if there's a written rule about that, but I would say 10X is in that same category, right? Like, they're back burnering it. It's not coming to market this year, and it's not coming to market next year. So it's not coming to market, right? I mean, that's kind of where we're at, right? But I don't think this is bad. I was scared that 10X was going to come out in a way, right?
It would have failed horribly.
It would have been terrible.
I'm sorry,
right?
folks, but it would have failed horribly, right?
And it would have failed. No, it wouldn't have failed if it really was what they described when they put it all out there and everything was running in a container and you could run any kind of app and it was all secure and great. But that isn't how it was working. And the apps weren't working well. Right.
I mean, at that point, though, it's like, well, then just make that be Windows. Like,
I know.
Why do we need another thing that does this? I fundamentally, Windows 10X was going to be a mobile platform. And I think the world has moved on from this. We have what we need. We have choices in every market. Windows, to me, is the obvious choice for a computer. But, obviously, you can choose Linux. You can buy a Mac. You have choices, whatever. We have Android and iOS on phones and on tablets, essentially. We have web apps. I mean, are we done here? I mean, what?
I think if Windows 10 with Sun Valley really materializes the way all these rumors are having it appear and sound like, with the simpler UI, with your apps that your recent documents front and center, a more simple, understandable, clean look, this could take the place of 10X. And that's my guess about what they're thinking now. Like, why do we need 10X if we're going to do Sun Valley with Windows 10? Right.
So the one reason, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here, is low-end PCs aimed at education, especially that are kind of resource constrained and might have trouble running full boat Windows, right?
Yeah.
And that's a problem today. We've all seen these $200 to $300 hunks of junk that unfortunately education has to buy because they're cash constrained,
Yeah.
I think part of the work that went into what do you call it? Windows Core or whatever it's called this year.
Windows Core OS. Yeah.
Which has been this decades-long series of attempts to further componentize Windows and separate the wheat from the chaff and be able to deliver it was the type of thing during the one Windows phase when Windows 10 was first coming out, where you could see how this one system supposedly was going to scale from a phone to a tablet, to a computer, to a Surface Hub, to an Xbox, whatever. And those things would all have different kind of collections of components that would make up those platforms. I mean, that's what Windows 10X sounds like to me. Componentization. I'm going to take the core stuff with and the store platform, web apps, obviously, and and run Win32 apps through containers, which sounds great if it works. And by it works, it has to be compatible and has to have good performance. But as you hear that, the thing that went through my mind as a Windows guy is, well, that sounds great. Yeah. They're going to bring that to Windows, right? To me, that's how you evolve the platform.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's too bad.
I keep wondering. I don't think we know enough about what this thing is that we keep just saying we're throwing it out there. Sun Valley, right? Like the way we've kind of been thinking about it is you take Windows and you slap a new UX on it and it's Sun Valley. And it's Windows 10 with Sun Valley. But I don't think that's what that's going to be, right? I think the thing that has Sun Valley on it is not going to be Windows 10 as we know it right now. I think they're going to make a lot of changes under the covers too to Windows because I've heard that people refer to this as the new Windows, right? Windows with Sun Valley. So it makes me think it's not just a new, rounded corners and dark mode and all that stuff. I don't give a crap about new fonts. I don't care. New icons. Come on, who cares? No one.
Well, I will say, a UI refresh and a system-wide level of consistency, which is probably not attainable, is still desirable, right? It
is. But I think there's more. There's got to be more than that, right? Like, what if they actually made pen mode work? What if they made touch mode actually not like a Fisher-Price thing, but something real that works?
All right, you're first of all, you're talking crazy now, and I don't know if I can handle this.
I am. I know. And now I'm hyping everyone up because I don't even know if that's what they're trying to do or not. But if they were going to make this the new Windows, like not just in look, but more, it could be something better. It could be what it could be what 10X should be in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah. By the way, as soon as I heard of this Win32 container idea, I thought, if this could work, this should be what Windows is, right?
Yeah.
This would make Windows more resilient. But this assumes, like I said earlier, it has to be compatible, by which I mean broadly compatible. We'll call it 100%, not really, but 100% compatible. Any app will work fine. The user doesn't notice anything. And then the other half of it is the performance part. And these are the things that we're suffering under the original Win32 container scheme, at least in the betas that we saw. So it's a good idea in theory, right? But it has to work as an implementation. Yeah. And it didn't, I guess.
Well, the one app that has to work and has to work well is Teams, obviously. Like if Teams... Nopad's a given.
Yes, but also Teams. Yep.
Right. Teams has to be like Teams has to work on this thing because that's Microsoft's centerpiece of everything that they're doing, right? So if Teams doesn't work, well,
what is Teams on Windows? Is it a
Electron?
It's an
Electron app.
That should work.
Yeah,
it should work.
But it's also a bulky mess, right? And they've got to.
Well, it's Electron, Mary Jo.
I know.
That's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
I mean, it has to be.
No, you're right.
I feel like
Windows.
It's
Teams
almost more important, right? Yeah. It's almost more important for, you know how we used to always talk about min-win and slimming down Windows and making Windows more componentizable and manageable. It's almost more important that Teams is that, right?
Honestly, this thing could become a Teams book, this system instead of a Edge book, right?
I know. Exactly. Yep.
Someone at work shared a Word document with me yesterday, and I clicked on it instead of normally I right-click download, and it opened inside Teams with a simplified ribbon, and and it's the thought occurred to me yesterday, like, man, I mean, does this thing run Notepad? Because this could pretty much replace Windows.
I know.
It has so many apps now built into it.
Yep.
Maybe that becomes a Teams device in the future. Like a Teams, I don't know, you call it Teams OS or whatever.
Yeah. Yep. I know. We used to always joke it should be called Edge Book, right? Something running
Edge OS,
10x.
Yeah.
Right. But instead, what if you're right and it's a Teams book, right? Like
maybe that's the way the world's shifted for them, because they have to be looking at what customer needs are. They must have had some discussions with education, with commercial customers, governments, whatever. Well, okay, that's good. Okay. Hopefully they have had those conversations. But if they have, you have to think what they came back with was like, nobody's asking for this. What are you doing?
I know.
This is not what we want. Right. Here's an idea. Why don't you just make Windows like actual Windows run better?
I know.
On a lower end computer.
This is going to sound like I'm overstating the case, but I'm a little worried about Windows right now because I keep having these like horrifying flashbacks to when they debuted Windows 8, and it was something nobody wanted. Right? They just were like, here, guys, we think you all are going to use this, and this is the best way to go forward. But okay, so what if they did that with like 10X or even Sun Valley, right? They just design something that's beautiful and they think it's what people want. And then they don't really show enough people who are their established customer base. And they're like, okay, here it is. And then they're like, wait, we don't want that, right?
I mean, by the time Windows 8 was shipping, as you and I well know, the crazy madman that had created this thing was on his way out the door. But during its development, he kind of had the ear of the senior leadership team, and they thought he was going to do a good job. Right. I was going to say that's not really the situation today, but actually, you could make a pretty good argument that Panos Panay, the last surviving relic of that era, who is now in charge of both Windows and Surface, kind of does have the ear of the SLT, doesn't he?
He does.
So, good, bad, or indifferent, whether he's malicious or not, or well-intentioned or not, or whatever he is. I mean, I suppose. But then again, he was the person ultimately responsible for 10X, and he said no to it.
Yeah, which is good. That's good.
To me, that's good decision making.
Me too. Same. And I know a lot of people had their hopes up for Windows 10X. Like when it was canceled, I saw so many people like wringing their hands. But I'm like, guys, you don't want them to come to market with something that's terrible because it's going to be kin all over again, right? Comes to market and 6 weeks later, it's out of market.
Well,
right?
actually, so that's actually that's a really good example or a good comparison, because I think the one thing we need to acknowledge here is that the people who even know about this thing today and have been excited about it for some reason are Windows enthusiasts. And these people are largely technical. And I think the issue here is they would not have been able to use this system. This would not have met their needs. And yet they were still really excited about it. Now, I think a lot of them in a, I don't know what you want to call this, kind of a parental way, wanted to give it to their wife, to their kids, to their mother, to their relatives, whoever. So in their mind, so they wouldn't have to do as much support of whatever it is. But of course, anytime I mean, we know some pretty smart people who can't handle computers as it is. I mean, you want to change everything. I mean, I maybe that's not the best way to go. I mean, maybe the best approach for a lot of people is give them something familiar, and they can use it successfully.
Yeah, I don't know why. Like lately, I this shows you how I'm over quarantined and not exposed to enough outside stimuli. But I just start like thinking about Windows now, and I'm like, what if they have the whole Windows 8 thing happen again?
Sure. Oh God.
Well, Windows 8.
They will at some point. They'll go through that again. You know that.
Gosh, no.
Emmy.
It's too traumatic.
Well, they've done this over and over again.
They have.
And I would say, Vista was a problem because when it was happening, the iPhone happened and the world changed, right? It was kind of the wrong time.
They had to pivot. Yeah.
And Windows 8 was an overreaction to this touch craze and to, touch and pen and mobile and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And to tablets, to the iPhone, you could say, I'm sorry, to the iPad. And, today, what are we worried about with Windows? I mean, I guess, the iPad has obviously continued, but the tablet market has not taken the place of the PC market. The Mac could be experiencing a resurgence of sorts because of the M1 stuff or Apple Silicon, whatever. I guess we'll see. I mean, so far that hasn't been, they've been trying with ARM and that has not gone well so far. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. I feel like Windows meets a need as it is. And there's some cleanup work that can be done. And we've been asking for this work for years. There are legacy UIs all over Windows. But I don't know what the business case is for making the existing thing better and not making something new. I feel like the impetus with corporations is always to do the next big thing and not focus on. You've got 1.3 billion users, dudes.
I know.
Why don't you just fix it?
And a lot of them are business users. Like that was the thing about 10X. Well, actually, about Sun Valley more than 10X. I worry about is. What if they start adding all these consumery things, right? And they're like, here it is, guys. Here's your new operating system. Here's the new Windows, right?
As long as they're able to turn that stuff off, preferably with policy at a group level. Yeah. The things that I've seen that are kind of like Sun Valley, imaginings or whatever. The start menu is like slightly separated from the taskbar. The windows have rounded corners.
Centered, stuff centered instead of off to the left. Yeah.
That's all fine because, when you think about it, we've got 25 plus years of experience with this desktop UI that debuted in Windows 95. It's start button, a taskbar, a desktop, a start menu. It's all there. It's prettier. And if you could go back in time and find us in 1995 and say, we're from the future, this is what it's going to look like. You go, I recognize that. That's Windows. It's awesome looking, but it's clearly Windows. That's fine, right?
Agree.
Not the time travel thing. I mean, the UI.
No, well, that would be kind of interesting, but yeah.
The paradox. Why did you meet us? It's a paradox. Also, we don't like each other now.
I don't know. I don't think the 10X thing is bad. I don't. I think I know it's a little surprising because we've been talking about it actually since like 2018 when we were calling it Windows Lite. But
yep. I mean, Windows 10 Cloud, which became Windows 10S, which became S Mode, is kind of a precursor of this. Windows 10 on ARM, they didn't, it wasn't designed this way explicitly, but because it can't run x64 apps, and especially through, say, today, it often runs x86 apps poorly, is also that kind of system where you get this kind of preview of, well, what's it like to run things that are only native to this platform or web apps? And it's like, it's okay. For some people, it's okay. It can work. But, I always use that example of everyone's got that one thing, it could be like a printer driver that they need because of special software that can print to the edge that's vital for their business or whatever the heck it is. Everyone has it. These limited systems come up short. For, especially when you're expecting Windows, the expectation is this is Windows. It's going to do what Windows does.
Exactly.
And they don't,
Right. If you call it Windows, it has to run all Windows apps. It has to, right? Because if it doesn't, then you're into explaining, well, it runs these, but it doesn't run these.
So you have to give it a new name if you're going to do something different.
That's what Apple didn't call the iPhone like Mac Mobile.
Right. Well, and Google's got a new OS called Fuchsia, which has kind of an unknown purpose. But so it feels like, is Microsoft just going to ride Windows all the way down, to the bitter end?
I mean, they may have to, right? I look, we talked about the componentization stuff. That's hugely important. I do think there's a real benefit to that, and that you can have more resource constrained computers or other computer-like devices that run Windows that, aren't constantly paging out to RAM or whatever, or to storage. But, I don't know. I think for Microsoft, the dream has always been to get past this. And really, the last time they successfully did it, well, there were two times, right? NT became 2000, became Windows XP, and that's kind of made that shift happen. I guess maybe that was it, really, or I guess you could add the DOS to Windows shift. But when was that? That was like 20 years ago. I mean, I don't know. They don't seem to be making a lot of headway in these new markets.
Yeah, or as how do you say his name? Traxionic is saying in Discord, once you componentize everything, once you put everything in containers, who cares if it's Windows inside or not Windows inside, right? Like all you care is you can run your Windows apps. It doesn't have to be on. By
the way, this is what I said a couple of weeks ago on the show where we're talking about the ability to run Linux GUI apps on Windows. And I thought, that's really interesting. Wouldn't it be more interesting if we could just run, Windows apps on Linux?
Anything.
I mean, on anything, right? I mean, that's a good point. Yeah. I mean, that's what the reason Parallels exists on the Mac is not because someone wants to run Windows. It's because they need an app or some set of apps, right?
Right.
It has nothing to do with Windows. I personally do prefer Windows, and I know what you want to hear. We're co-hosting a show about Windows, but it's
we can't change the name now. I'm sorry.
No, but
actually, I prefer Mac.
That's real.
Stop it. Liar.
No, I legit prefer it. I go in and out of the Mac all the time. I try to use Chrome OS. I can't stand it. And I will be looking at Linux this year, but again, and I've done that a lot in the past too, but I like Windows. Like I prefer it. It's yes, part of it might be familiarity. No, that's definitely true. But I've also, because I use it so much, have developed efficiencies and workflows that work for me. And when those things aren't, some of those things are important. And when they're not there, it's problematic. And by the way, 10X might have had those same problems. I mean, so I don't know. I feel I did, because this happened, I kind of revisited some stuff I'd written a couple of years ago about Windows 10S. And I keep coming back to this because I really feel like there's an interim that Microsoft can move to before they do containers and all this other stuff, which I think should happen. And that's just to do 10S right, that they turn 10S, which used to be kind of a separate version of Windows, into a mode that you can shift in and out of. But the one thing they haven't done, which is this thing I keep asking for, is you need to have an exceptions list. I agree that it is better overall to run in S mode because of the security, performance, battery life, reliability, whatever you want to call it, reasons. However, I have certain desktop apps that I need to run, and they're never going to be converted into store apps. They're never going to turn into web apps. These are, legacy code bases. It could be Photoshop. It could be anything. It doesn't matter what it is, and whatever it is. And I would like to be able to add arbitrarily to an exception list the apps that I need to run and have the rest of the system just always be in S mode, and I can still take advantage of some of the benefits of being in that mode. And I don't know why they don't just do that. Well, it's like all or nothing for them.
But wait, isn't one of the main reasons you use S mode to keep you like in a sandbox kind of, right? Like so that you can't go outside and run apps that are not approved or secured, right?
Yeah, but
so what if you have S mode and you download Chrome, right? Now, what if you have S mode and you go, okay, let me go download Chrome, right? Okay. So why are you in S mode at that point?
Because I only need to run Chrome in addition to the rest of the operating system being in S mode. In other words, S mode is there to design against the fabric
of the universe.
Yeah, but again, as an adult or an admin, I should be able to make that decision for myself. Yeah. It's I think we can just sort of agree that S mode has advantages that I would like to take advantage of. Yeah. And I can't because I do need to run certain applications.
Right.
Me or anyone else. I don't just mean me personally. I'm trying to think of the broader use case. Like the printer scanner driver thing is a great example. Like, look, I'm going to run Edge. I'm going to run your Office apps. I'm going to use the stuff built into Windows, web apps. I need to print. Can I just print? Yeah. Is that too much to ask today? Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm. Unless it's, obviously there are class drivers and printing works. I don't mean like that. But I mean, people have specific things that they do need. I use a certain markdown editor. It's a Win32 app. Yeah. I need that.
Okay. Bryson Harvey on Discord. Good point. What if Microsoft's revamp of the store where they let you have anything in the store that's approved by Microsoft? Then you don't need to have the whole in S mode, right? Like then there would be Android apps in the store and there would be, Win32 apps in the store and it would be certified by Microsoft. But yeah,
you almost need I guess it would be an independent board of some type that would evaluate Win32 apps that are out in the wild and certify them to meet some acceptable level of system reliability and performance and not impacting the battery life, and it's not doing anything screwy with security.
Yeah.
And I guess you can't have that. So I guess we're going to trust Microsoft. And, they've done a great job with the store. So I don't know why anyone's worried about this.
It has to be the new Windows and the new store, right? Like you need a totally revamped store.
Yep.
And here they are again. The guys.
I was going to say, is there like a ghost walking down your hall?
Yep, all day, not out there. Here they are.
The Raven's back.
Now.
Call him peg leg pointer. The pirate brick pointer.
The telltale heart is under the floor or something.
I don't know. I'm disappointed, but I think I thought of Windows X as something it wasn't really.
Yeah.
So that's...
No, the types of people that are going to be upset by this are the types of people that were never going to use it anyway.
Right.
Right. I mean, and because the types of people that should be using this have never heard of this thing. Why would they?
I know.
They're normal people. They're not technical. They're not into Windows.
Probably true. Yeah.
So it's safe to kill it. Safe to
putting it on the back burner. Let's use the proper lingo here. It's on the back burner.
Yeah.
But the back burner has been pushed into a hole in the wall and sealed with cement.
Yeah.
It's not. We're not accessing the burner.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you have it. Everything you always wanted to know about something that is no longer here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I wonder this about these companies because, Apple has in the past changed its operating system. They acquired Next Step and they kind of rewrote it to Mac OS X. But it's really rare for a company to kind of say, oh, we're going to work on the next generation operating system. They don't have to call it Windows. Call it Doors. Right, sure. I don't care.
Fuchsia, you just mentioned, for
Fuchsia's
example, right?
An example. I would from scratch, ground up.
And yet, I think a core goal of this thing is it has to run the apps that people have today, right? Or it doesn't make any sense. If they're going to replace Android, and I suspect other things related to Android IoT systems, whatever, with Fuchsia, there has to be some way for it to run.
You wouldn't want to throw out that code base. Yeah.
You don't kill the most popular platform on earth because you want to,
but at some point it becomes, maybe it's not in today, maybe it's 100 years, but at some point you need a new version, new thing.
Yeah.
Don't
you guys remember Midori, Microsoft Midori. That never happened. That was not even going to be Windows, right? Like that was them building a new operating system.
Somewhere inside Redmond, there is somebody doing at least.
There has to be,
that.
Right?
Yeah.
There has to be. Yeah.
Because
we don't know who that person
NT is, was in the early 90s, mid 90s, what, to Microsoft, what Google is doing today with Fuchsia, right?
Fuchsia,
I mean, it's we're going to keep, we keep going with the thing we have. Obviously, we're going to keep selling it. At some point, maybe Fuchsia becomes a public thing and you can get it on certain devices, and it will probably be alongside Android.
I just wonder, it's a moving target. So you're really aiming, into the distant future and an unknown future. But what would an operating system be in 20 years? What would that even mean?
Well, this from Google, it's going to have tracking at its heart.
Yeah, right.
It's cold black heart.
Now, Midori was going to be like this type safe, ultra secure, built from scratch kind of thing, where they were like, if you could build the perfect operating system that was really secure.
Yeah, but it's the same paradigm. So it's like, well, the paradigm's not going to change. We're just going to do this better. But I think that's a mistake. You really want to start to think about, well, what is the computing paradigm for a decade out, and what aim at that.
Cloud PC.
It's cloud, right? And then the OS is agnostic.
Yeah, it's like thin client with virtualization service, like Cloud PC, right?
And there's Microsoft needs to, and I'm sure they do, look around, because there's really interesting stuff being done by people who have no stake in the existing stuff, and that's who's going to do the interesting new stuff. Distributed file systems, things like
several billions of dollars in revenues every quarter.
You don't get rid of that
directly from Windows, right?
You
don't.
You can't.
Right.
You can't just say,
that's
look,
the innovator's dilemma.
People can access our apps over the cloud, so we don't have to worry about Windows anymore. It's like, well, hold on a second. We can replace those revenues, right?
No, you keep those two things side by side as long as you can. Just like Office, like Office Perpetual and Office as a Service, right?
Yeah.
Keep them going,
it would be fascinating if you could have a thinner, lighter system with fewer resources that could run Windows apps from the cloud effectively.
Yeah.
That would be great for certain people, assuming you had the bandwidth, of course.
And there's things like IPFS and something called local file system, which Mozilla is working on, which the idea is it doesn't matter where what you're working on is stored.
Yeah. Oh, God, please. Even on mobile devices, I've never understood this. Let's say I go to like the Instagram app on my phone, and I'm like, I have these photos that are in Google Photos that I want to post onto Instagram. Why? I mean, there's probably some share way to do that, but that I should be able to on my phone say, you have access to Google Photos.
Right.
Look at that collection.
Right.
And just do it without me doing any goofy upload, download, anything.
You should be able to store your stuff wherever you want. It should appear to be local no matter where you are. Yeah. It should be sandboxed, so it's isolated, it's safe. It should be private, which means it probably should be encrypted. It feels like we kind of could come up with something that would be appropriate 10 years down the road. I got an email from somebody who said, "You idiot." I love it when they start that way.
He writes me too.
Yeah. Oh, you heard from him. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
When the Ruskies or whoever take down the cloud, you're going to be sorry that you have told everybody to put stuff in the cloud. The only safe storage is local storage.
Yeah, said the EMP.
Yeah, right.
As it falls on your city.
That neutron bomb isn't going to be your friend. I can tell you right now, buddy. I mean, of course, and that's why I think something that is. I mean, you can envision something that would be kind of resilient to that. That would be both local, synchronized local and cloud storage. It would appear to be local wherever you are. You would work on it.
This is the sync instead of backup thing. The idea is that you should never have data on any device that's only on that device.
Yeah.
Ever.
Right. Of course. That's obvious.
Well, of course. It is, and yet.
And it should also, I would submit, be platform agnostic. It shouldn't matter. Yeah. I work in Windows, Mac OS, and Linux all the time, and everywhere I am, and iOS and Android. I'm always conscious of, is this platform agnostic? But the good news is there's no reason not to be these days. There's standards out there. You can totally do that.
This is one of the sticking points for Chrome OS because it has file system integration with Google Drive, but that's it. I'm sorry. No, I mean, I can access OneDrive, but it's just a remote view of it, and
everything should be the same. It shouldn't matter. Everybody should be a peer, but that's going to be hard I think that's a difficult proposition for a proprietary company like Microsoft. Although Microsoft, of all the proprietary companies, is the most
They've
open.
embraced it.
Yeah.
They're trying to do it.
I mean,
they're trying to be everywhere. Yep.
I'm running
to
a
defend
note-taking
Apple,
app. I'm running a note-taking app called LogSeq, LOGSEQ, that lives on GitHub. So, and then you have your Git. You can pull it anywhere. It's for notes. It's stored on GitHub, which is a Microsoft product. So it's in
when
there.
you pull
it's
it,
in
it
their
syncs.
cloud.
This is what I was describing. You're syncing it at that point.
Exactly. I have a local version everywhere, and I have a cloud version that is the single source of truth. So everybody syncs up with that. It's very robust as a result.
Yep. And version control and all that stuff. If you screwed something up on one device, you can sign in from a different device and fix it.
Yeah, Git solves a lot of this, actually. You kind of see why Microsoft bought GitHub.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I trust, this is the interesting thing. Normally you would say, well, you really should start that on a server, that you own. But honestly, I trust GitHub to be there more than any server that I own. And, and because I have local copies everywhere, that's the beauty of Git. Git, of all the versions, control systems, is the one that keeps copies on every participant, has the full copies. So it's very safe that way.
I have better luck searching OneDrive for content than I do searching my NAS.
Yeah, that's right.
and by luck, I mean both performance and then the end result of getting what I was looking for.
But in the best of both worlds, you'd have it all on the NAS as well. So it's everywhere.
That's right. Well, the best of honestly, the ultimate, the end game here should be that I'm syncing OneDrive down to the NAS, right?
Right.
But I'm not. So what's on the NAS is roughly what's in OneDrive, but they're really two different things. They're not connected in any way, right? They don't talk to each other. There's no verification that I'm not, syncing something. It's just, it's just something I do manually. I'm doing all the work.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
I think I like thinking about this because I hope I'll be around in 10 years. And I think I think we've learned a lot. This is why I'm sad about 10X. We've learned a lot. Microsoft has a huge depth of knowledge about what people do because of telemetry, what they need, what they use, what they don't use, and because they've been writing Windows forever, they know what works and doesn't work and just what dead ends to avoid and all that. And I would love to see them take that expertise and put it towards the next generation.
I mean, we complained about this at the time, but I think it was a leak actually of the single screen version of 10X. You couldn't access the desktop, so you couldn't put files there, and that's something I do routinely. You couldn't access any part of the file system except for downloads, which is, I think, I could be off a little bit, to just let it roll if I'm not exactly right, but they have very limited access to the file system, which is something you see in Chrome OS as well. And that act, aside from just, look, we're copying Chrome OS, which I'm sure was part of it, eliminates some of the problems we just described, where people are arbitrarily leaving stuff all over their computer. If you kind of limit that and kind of push them toward doing this cloud sync thing, where everything in this case would be in OneDrive if you're using the Microsoft stuff, you're achieving this thing we've been talking about, this data resiliency goal or whatever.
Yeah, when they talked about 10X in the jobs listings on their site, they called it a cloud-powered OS. That's why, right? Everything was like you were probably going to have to save everything in the cloud. Like it wouldn't let you save locally, I bet.
I'm sure if you saved locally, and I mean, because you'd be saving to OneDrive, it's going to be in the cloud. Like it's
right.
It's we're going to have a conversation about 2FA later. It's going to be like that. Like in the past, you could choose. My father ran into the file limit for the root of the C drive, whatever that was, one year. I remember it was hilarious. We're not going to let people do that over time. Like we're, not we, you and I, but I mean, Microsoft or whatever the platform makers, like they're moving to a system that some people will find limiting because they're used to doing things a certain way, but is more secure and reliable and et cetera, et cetera.
No, like you said, the people listening to the show, they wouldn't be the people for 10X, right? My mom would be a great person to run Windows 10X because she's always putting files in places where I'm like, Mom, where did you put that? Like, is it like where?
I mean,
and I think you need to think about it as, if you're going to make it simpler, and the main target audiences were education, like lower, not higher education, but like, grade school education, and first line workers who you don't want saving stuff to their local devices. You want them saving it to the cloud, probably using cloud-based apps, not using locally installed versions of like Office apps. It makes a lot of sense that was the operating system for them, right?
Except that it came from Microsoft, and who was asking for this? I mean, I was your mother. I mean, I'm not pushing you to Chrome OS exactly, but there are Chromebooks, there are iPads.
She would be better. Yeah, I've been thinking about that.
Maybe for someone like that, might just be the simpler thing that she needs or whatever.
Yeah, after taking control of our system twice lately, I'm like, maybe next time it's going to be a Chromebook.
Maybe
it might not be a bad choice. It might not be a bad choice. But yeah, I just think at one point Microsoft was talking and thinking about branding, having PCs branded as Microsoft 365 certified devices or something like that. I think this is kind of where they're thinking, like, how do we make it so that we put guardrails up so that people only are doing stuff in the cloud, even though they have a PC that could do things locally, like they're trying to push that cloud.
Right? So we just talked about S mode and how it restricts you to only accessing web apps obviously, but also store apps. That's only one element of this, and we just spent a bunch of time talking about file sync and data resiliency and all that stuff. I mean, that could be part of this mode as well, right? I mean, we're not going to let you. Well, you can put stuff on your desktop if you want, but we're syncing that to OneDrive, right? That's the only time you can do that. I mean. Right. Today, we have basically unfettered access to the file system. Microsoft hides some stuff from us, but if you know what you're doing, you can go get it. And maybe that's what needs to be turned off. That would be more secure as well if, if apps couldn't access that stuff either.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Why do we use Windows again? Oh, yeah.
Well, like I always joke, I shouldn't even be using Windows for what I do at all, but except for what I do for my job. But
I would never stop making fun of you if you walked into a press room with a Chromebook. But, sure.
Hey, you showed up with a MacBook one time at a press conference, I believe.
Good choice, Paul. Excellent choice.
Can't confirm or deny that story.
He had the logo covered up with a
that's
Windows.
Funny.
No one knew, of course. Right?
No one knew? Oh, they all knew. They all thought, I'm going to do that next time. That's what they thought.
We were so innocent then.
Those were the days before Panos Panay took your Surface and showed the world. Let's take a break and talk about our sponsor. Either you have any custom domain names to your name? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I got about, I don't know, I should count them. Hundreds and hundreds.
I definitely have dozens.
Yeah, because every time I get an idea, and that's one of the reasons I like Hover, which is our sponsor, and my domain registrar of choice, because it's really easy, unfortunately, to run over to Hover, and affordable to run over to Hover and register something. And boom, you got a new domain name. It was so easy. I remember that Micah Sargent registered a domain name. He misheard something Apple was talking about and registered a domain name for a product that doesn't exist. But
that's awesome.
It's easy.
Do you remember what the name of it?
Micah, what was that you registered? Do you remember? He was in a big hurry, and he ran over and he registered. And it was like he misheard the spelling. And now he's still got it. But, I'm looking at my domain names. And, admittedly, a lot of them, like tunictime.com and fancypants.com, probably are never going to go anywhere, my clothing line. But it was easy to do it. And if you're starting a business, probably the first thing you should do is go get the domain name, right? If you're a blogger, if you're a photographer, an artist, if you're creating a portfolio, if you're building an online store, maybe you just want a more memorable redirect to your LinkedIn page. Hover is the best domain names and email addresses in the biz, just for you. Email is a really good one to keep in mind. I mean, I still send mail to people at hotmail.com. Oh, you still have that, do you? AOL.com. It's not good. Joey's Ice Cream Shop at AOL.com doesn't project a professional image, but you could get joeysicecreamshop.com or even, joeys.shop and profit. And with the email, people are going to remember it. It's going to associate your brand with somebody besides Hotmail or Outlook or AOL. It's really easy to set up. Email at your domain name is kind of a great way to build trust for your brand, connecting with customers. And of course, Hover has domain-based emails for all your needs, big or little. Very easy to set up. You can add as many mailboxes as to your domain as you need. When your domain renews, your mailboxes will too. It starts with the domain, though. Think of a good domain. For your family, I have a family name email address that we use, everybody in the family uses. For your business, a great gift for a new child, register the domain name, right? Then they'll have it. I did that for both my kids. They'll have it forever. And the prices at Hover are great, unbeatable. The most popular mailbox, for instance, is a no-brainer solution for business owners. You get access from everywhere. You can use your email app. You don't have to leave that behind. There is a webmail interface as well. That's just one of many things you can do at Hover. But what I like is when you register a domain name at Hover, you don't get the page after page of, would you like to buy that? Would you like to buy this? For instance, you get Whois domain privacy automatic. It's part of the price built in. It's not an upsell. They don't do web hosting. No upsell. Email, domain, that's about it. They also, though, make it very easy if you're a sophisticated user. I use their pro-level DNS management and mail management tools. They're intuitive, they're easy to use, but they give you all the features you would want. The Whois, to me, is an absolute must to have that domain protection. Hover Connect makes it really easy if you want to connect your blog. You'll note that, by the way, everything I do has a custom domain name, leolaporte.com, leo.fm, all registered at Hover. And it's very easy if you're using WordPress or Squarespace or any number of systems, to just one button, and your domain is now official, which is great. And the other thing I love about Hover, and it's important to mention, you are a customer, not a source of data. The email is tracker-free. The Hover does not sell your information. They're trusted by hundreds of thousands of customers, including everybody here at Twit. Steve Gibson actually did a poll. He was on one of the old kind of classic domain registrars, the one we all started with, and he was so sick and tired of this horrible service. He did a poll on Twitter. He said, what should I use? Everybody agreed, Hover. Hover. Turn your ideas into a reality with a custom domain that reflects who you are, whether you're a developer, a photographer, a small business. Hover has something for you to expand your projects and get the visibility you want. Go to hover.com/twit. Get 10% off your first purchase for any domain extension for the entire first year. Hover.com/twit. 10% off your domain extension for a full year. We thank Hover so much for their support of Windows Weekly. Please show that you listen to the show by using that domain so they know. Hover.com/twit. Thank you, Hover. Windows, now that we've done Windows 10X, ta-ta.
Let's talk about other failures.
Let's talk about other failures. Windows 10, whoa. Windows on ARM.
So I got to be honest. I think Windows 10 on ARM is going to cross a line this year where it becomes, there.
Good.
It's going to require, Well, obviously, x64 app compatibility is a big deal. So that's not there yet, right? I asked that question, I think, last week, right? It's still in the dev channel. It's not broadly available, but, it will be this year, probably 21H2, I would guess.
Yeah.
And we need new processors that are better at running x86 code, and we don't have those yet, right? So I'm reviewing an HP Elite Folio, which is is based on the 8CX Gen 2, which is like the 8CX Gen 1.1, really, but whatever. That's what we have, and so the inability to run x64 apps is a problem for sure. And, just the general kind of performance stuff that is still an issue.
So even with the CX, it's still not very performant. That's too
well. But let me caveat that. I mean, the day-to-day stuff, the stuff that's built in. If you're running Microsoft Edge, this is a system that has 16 gigabytes of RAM. For one thing, it's got a pretty fast SSD. It's a 3x2 display, which I like. It's a transforming kind of, it's a new type of convertible PC. Comes with a built-in pen. which I think is neat for those people that want that kind of stuff. I mean, I feel like there's a market developing for this kind of product. I feel like the second half of this year is when we're going to, what I'll call the first viable Windows 10 on ARM PCs will finally appear, assuming that there's some chipset, advance occurring that we haven't heard about, a 8CX2 or something or whatever. So we'll see. It's interesting to me that so little has changed, and yet it is also interesting because this particular computer, this is the one with that fake, vegan leather cover, and it feels like a Folio when you're carrying it. It's one of those weird kind of things where you grab it, and you're like, oh, I'd like to touch it. It's kind of weird, It's kind of a hard thing to explain, and now that I have explained it, I feel weird about myself. It's pleasant. Like, it's not because of the system it runs, but because of what it is, physically. It's also like $2,000, which is, ridiculous. So I just, I don't, we just kind of went through Windows 10X. I hope no one comes away with, oh, you guys hate 10X, just like I get a lot of that. Oh, you just hate Windows 10 on ARM. For some reason, like I arbitrarily hate certain versions of Windows, I guess. Like I want it to succeed, it's never quite been there for me. And I think for most, but I feel like, and it's not like, this thing is not, it's like a goofy thing. Like I, on one level, really like this computer. On another level, there's no way I could recommend this to anybody. There's no way. There's no way. Yeah. It's too expensive, compatibility issues, performance, I can't. Yeah. But it's like, maybe.
I know. And 10X wasn't even slated to run on ARM, at least not in the immediate future.
Which is
it was only
goofy
be Intel,
because
right?
it would have made more sense on ARM.
I think so too. I know. I guess maybe because it came out in we started hearing talk about it in 2018, and I don't remember what state Windows on ARM was at that point, but
I don't know what they would put into a 10X PC that would make it acceptable, because that thing would the last thing you want to hear on a tablet is a fan,
I know. Right.
So I guess we really should just accept the fact that ARM is only for phones. And
or for
ARM
Apple.
on the desktop will never. Apple. Oh yeah.
I mean, geez.
How come?
And I feel like
what is the problem? I don't understand. If Apple can do it, this is pretty. Right. Yeah.
It is a pretty computer, and the style of the way it transforms is the display comes forward, right? You don't have to flip it around backwards, because one of the things, if you think about like a convertible laptop, you flip the screen all the way around, literally like 360 degrees, and you turn it over. Now the screen's on the top, but what's on the bottom are keys, right?
Right.
And even though they've engineered these things so you don't get errant key.
Yeah, you don't want to put your keys on the table.
Yeah, you don't want,
Yeah,
it's not good.
This is an executive computer, right? This is not.
Yep. Yeah. That's exactly right.
And does the executive not care that it's not particularly performant, or somebody's written?
Well, like I said, data, it's fine. Where you're going to run into problems are when you run emulating apps that are x86. And the bigger, the worse that's going to be. I mean, Edge and the Office stuff and file system stuff, that all seems okay. It's fine.
Yeah.
Could this be the thin client?
Yeah, well, that's the
24
thing.
hours
So,
battery life. I mean,
that's the thing, right? So imagine you have a system like 10X was supposed to be. We're not going to do Win32 compatibility is coming in the future through some kind of a container. So right now it's just going to run the stuff that comes on it. I mean, at that point, why not just run it on ARM? The battery life is going to be way better. You can have a fanless, silent system. That's fantastic. I mean, why not?
why is it so expensive?
Ask Qualcomm.
It's not based on performance, obviously. Usually you think of, there's a price performance correlation.
So
right?
if you follow Qualcomm, you probably are familiar with the notion that they have dramatically expanded their processor lines in recent years. And so it's very similar to Intel, where you see like Core i3, i5, i7, and now i9, and then they have Xeon and blah, 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 whatever, Y series and H series and K series and F series and U series and whatever it is. Trillion chipsets. Qualcomm's kind of moving in that direction, right? They have different chipsets for different markets. They have specific chipsets for PCs, for smartwatches, for IoT devices, for blah, blah, whatever it is, in addition to phones and tablets. And then even within like the phone lines, they have 800 series, 700 series, 600 series, 400 series. I think that's every one of them. I mean, and within those, there are multiple versions of each. And I mean, I don't get this. It's like when you would buy a PC and there'd be like a USB 2 port on one side, and a USB 3 port on the other side. Guys, just make one kind of port. Just put it on both sides. It's stupid, you know? Like, I feel like when it's a money thing. Like, I guess I get it, but
yeah.
Would you bring
unfortunately,
this? Would this be the thing you would bring to the next Microsoft event?
Well, if it was happening this month, I would.
Yeah.
It's got quiet keyboard. It's lightweight. You're just writing.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah. Well, so one of the things I do, I edit graphics, right? So I usually use two different tools. I use Microsoft Paint. I use what's it called, Affinity Photo. I used to use Photoshop Elements in Photoshop, you know, that kind of thing. So without running the insider build of Windows 10 on ARM, I can't run Affinity Photo. I can't run any version of Photoshop unless I find like a really old version. So that's not great. So what I've installed in this, which I don't like, is Paint.net. And when I say that, I don't mean it's a bad program. It's not. It's a great program. I just have very specific needs and do things a certain way. And I guess we could get into the weeds if you want to, but it's just not efficient for me. But it runs. It's native, or no, it's not native. It's probably x86. It runs, so I can run it. But I don't know. You're on the road. You don't have a big screen. You don't have a big keyboard and mouse, and now you don't even have all the applications you need. There's at some point it becomes like a little too much.
Yeah.
What are the prospects for Windows on ARM then? Are we going to get better ARM? You know, I'm sure if we could put an M1 in there, it'd be fantastic.
Right.
Well, maybe not. I don't know.
No. That's maybe. I mean, I look. Apple's never going to license M1.
That's fantasy. So,
Right.
but in other words, you can create a desktop processor that's based on the ARM architecture that's performant. And
so Apple being Apple and being the only company involved in the chain has been able to take its processor development and customize it specifically for what it knows it's going to need on a Mac.
Right.
Microsoft has gone to a partner and said, this is what we need. And they said, here's what we can do. And it's, it runs like, compiled.
So depressing.
I know.
I mean, you're really, you're competing against an iPad is what you're competing against.
You're also competing against every x86 chip ever made. And like I just described, not all of the Intel chip families. My God, there's like hundreds of them.
The H just came out, right?
Yeah. And that's the, gaming PC class chipset for the latest, like the Tiger Lake family of chips. And, people, it's awful writing for a technology news site. So, because everyone's so awful about everything, right? It's like, why would Intel bother putting out, like, Intel's calling this 10 nanometer.
I'll never buy another Intel chip. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly,
I'm really done.
I wouldn't go that far. Like, I'm okay with the Intel stuff, but I will say, if you enjoy like fans randomly coming on at different times, or you're holding it and one of your hands gets warm for some reason, like Intel's great. It's good for that stuff. Maybe you need it to heat a room in the winter. But I think Intel, through competition from the M1, through the competition from AMD, they're going to improve things for sure. And if you're a gamer and you play on a PC, I mean, this chipset is probably fantastic. But, on the one hand, you get people like, you get people coming in and like, why don't they bother? I would never do anything with Intel again. Blah, blah, blah. Intel, there are already 80 laptops planned for this year that are going to run these chips. And this isn't even like the mainstream.
It's the default. This is the default. That's what it is. But, IBM just announced 2 nanometer.
I know. So, and look, I for mobile devices in particular, whatever. For all electronic devices, it's thinner, lighter, smaller, more energy efficient is always better, kind of vaguely better. The problem with PCs, and this goes back to the first conversation we had on the show an hour ago now, Windows 10X, we can call it legacy, you can call it whatever you want, but like traditional Windows apps are what people expect on Windows. And look, these chips are going to run that stuff really well, right? You might be dealing with a little fan noise. But if you're a gamer and you want to tie it up with some great, dedicated graphics chipset, Like these things are going to be fantastic. There's no doubt about it. The thing that's sitting on my desk right now is a ridiculous computer. It's a workstation. I want to say it's 27 watt chip, right? Probably 14. That's certainly 14 nanometer. This thing may as well have little feet on the chip. I mean, it's like it feels that old fashioned in a way, but it's also like
it's a workhorse.
It's like a muscle car.
It's a muscle car.
Yeah.
I have that AMD, the AMD, whatever it is, 5800, 5900 on my desktop. And
Sorry,
it's great for gaming.
On my lice.
No, I know. It's great for gaming. I'm really happy. The fans are loud, and it's a liquid cooled system because it is, and I don't know what the TPU is, but I'm sure it's sucking a bunch of power.
The rest of your neighborhood dims.
The lights dimming is a hint, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
it's okay.
It's
I drive
raw
a Mustang.
power.
It's you're making it up another.
It is a muscle car. That's exactly what it is. It's the muscle car. So the H though is for laptops. Is that right?
This is for gaming PC. H is it mobile gaming or see? I've lost track of this now because
it's so confusing.
Let me look at so the thing I'm running.
And I don't even know if there's a difference.
Oh, there's a difference.
This says mobile.
Oh, it's mobile gaming then. Yeah. So the thing I have is a K series, right? So K series, as I understand it, and again, I'm eagerly awaiting the correction on this one, is overclockable. Like this is a workstation class.
K has traditionally been overclockable. Yes, that's right.
So it's not, it's I don't know what would the gaming class PC be? I guess it is H. I thought it was H series. Maybe it's K series now. They've changed this around a little bit.
Oh well.
Yeah. Oh well. Well, but it's allegedly 10 nanometer, so we're heading in the right direction. You're not going to have any of the compatibility problems we just talked about, with ARM, and the performance is going to be incredible, no doubt about it. So what's more important? Do you want 22 hours of battery life, or do you want 15 minutes of battery life, but you can really nail it in Call of Duty?
But the great frame rate, that's what matters. Yeah. It's all about the frame rate.
Yeah. Everyone has different needs. That's all I'm saying.
Well, it's funny because we compare this, with the Elite we just talked about, and you've got...
These couldn't be more different.
Couldn't be more... the opposite ends of the spectrum.
Couldn't be more different. Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah. So that is the real strength of the PC marketplace is anything you want.
It's the double-edged sword of the PC market, right? It's all the benefits that you get from all the partners and all the competition and all the choice, which is wonderful. And then, there's some advantages on the other side when you talk about a company like Apple, especially, where they're kind of doing everything and making choices for you. And some people understandably want that. And,
at least you get the diversity and the choice, and it's all out there. And certainly software is demanding enough in many cases that you want one of these high-end things.
I mean, look, I'm running web apps. I obviously need a K-series processor. I don't understand all this talk about nanometers.
I want to overclock, please.
All I know is from the back, it looks like Chernobyl. When I'm sitting in the other room, my office is lit up in a green glow that is quite pleasing.
True that it's probably a silly thing for people to say, well, where's the 7 nanometer chip? As if that means
we haven't gotten there yet, so you should just give up.
Right.
You understand this is still the worldwide leader.
It's fast, right? Is it fast? Is it as fast as something else? Yeah, it's fast. So I'm not sure what you're missing. Does it use more power? Yeah, it's not ideal. It's maybe a little hotter than it would be if it were a better process. This IBM process is 333 million transistors per square millimeter, which is twice the density of the 10 nanometer chips.
Do they build that chip themselves? Like who fabricates this?
Oh, I don't fabricate, schmabricate. They're not going to make it. They just invented it. That's all.
I see. I see.
Actually, a non-tech article is very good. I don't know if they plan to put it into production. Actually, to be honest, it's research.
It's going to be inside some kind of a chess computer. Like, what are we talking about?
It's not going to be Watson. That one.
Right.
That one
it is not.
Is gone. So I don't. I think it's just research. But what it shows is that you can stack transistors and get super high densities. I mean, amazing.
And I think that wasn't that the kind of the most interesting thing about it, the way it's kind of a 3D.
Yeah. Well, all of the new stuff is all this FinFET stuff.
Yeah. I think that's what SuperFin is, right?
Yeah.
Like 3D.
Yeah, exactly. That's how you get. So that's why the nanometer stuff doesn't matter quite as much.
Hold on for 40. I'm just throwing it out there.
It's kind of cool that they could make it. Let me see if they. The density is what's, instead of saying nanometers, you should measure number of transistors per square millimeter. And, that's more accurate.
Good.
So Intel's 100, in their 10 nanometer process, about 100 million transistors per square millimeter, which is mind-boggling. I mean, a square millimeter is, it's the head of a pin, basically. The 2 nanometer IBM chip is triple that, 333 million. And you compare that to TSMC's 5 nanometer processes, which is what Apple's using for the M1. It's the IBM's twice that densities. So,
yep.
It's pretty impressive. Samsung's way behind. Samsung has a 7 nanometer, but it's only 95 million transistors per square millimeter. So I think that's a better measurement because of these stacking.
We're getting into the quantum computing territory.
Oh, God,
where companies are kind of
we're past that.
It's mind-boggling. Well, you keep saying Moore's Law. You keep thinking Moore's Law's got to run out. It's got to run out.
Sure.
But this is something called EUV, extreme ultraviolet technology. So let's see. They can make it. They can make it in a lab. They can make one wafer probably.
So it's expensive.
Well,
this is what I'm hearing.
The fact is they can do it, and they've got a process that can do it. IBM
chip is it though? Like,
doesn't
what is
have
it,
fabs anymore. So, but I guess they did a deal with Global Foundries so that they can make stuff. Samsung also does some fab for them, and they have a partnership with Intel. So,
knowing IBM, they'll call it like Power PC 501 or some stupid.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. I don't know what they're going to do with it, but it's amazing that you can do it.
Well,
it's pretty interesting. They did it in Albany, New York, upstate New York. When the wind and the rain and the snow hit, there's not much else to do but design chips.
Or drink beer.
Or drink
beer.
Yeah.
Well, that's why all that stuff's in Arizona. It's like you can't go outside.
Right.
Let's
too
make
hot to
some
go
chips.
out. Let's make some chips.
It's air conditioned in here, I can tell you that.
Frying chips on the sidewalk tonight. Google, we talked about this yesterday a little bit with Security Now and Steve Gibson. And Steve felt like Google was a little scant on the details. Maybe you know more.
No, they were.
They
Very
were.
scant.
They want to do...
because the premise of the story is Google envisions a world in which there are no passwords. I thought that's fascinating. Microsoft envisioned this world like 3 years ago, and we're living in it now.
Remember our caller last week was talking about was it passport?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, so I thought, so I very carefully read and then reread this blog post, and looking for that. Here's what we're going to do thing, and there is an interim step. Well, there is an interim step. So and they should have just said this. The title should have been, Google is going to enable, I'm going to call it 2FA, it's two-step verification, but 2FA for all is really what the story is. And so today, if you have a Google account, you can optionally add 2FA, strongly recommended, but it's optional. And in the future, they're going to just transition everyone over to 2FA. And that's smart. But to me, when I hear no passwords, I think, well, that's what Microsoft offers, right? So when I buy a new computer, we talked about this last week probably, you sign in with your password, your username, you hit enter, and there's no password ever changes hands. You acknowledge a prompt on your phone and you're in. That's it. And that's what Google will be doing. Well, no, except they won't, because the way Google does this is to get that prompt, you have to enter your password too. That's not a world with no passwords. That's a world with passwords and then this annoyance on the side. Like, I don't understand what that's all about. So they didn't offer any clues into this future of no passwords other than to say they can envision it. It's like, okay, well, if you're in the Microsoft sphere of influence, you're already living that dream, or you should be. I mean, you can be. It's available to you. So I haven't typed my Microsoft account password in, I don't know, several months, probably.
Yeah, I mentioned that to Steve. I really like how Microsoft does that.
Yeah. That's no passwords. That's what no passwords is.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that means.
No one knows.
Good try, Google. But by the way, I do like the notion of forcing 2FA on people. I think sometimes it's like a helmet law for a motorcycle. Like, you might not like it, but you know what? When you need it, you're going to be happy it was there.
It'll be interesting to see what they actually do, though, that we just don't know yet, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I think Microsoft has already shown us the way.
Yeah, that's, I love what Microsoft does. And that's exactly what I told Steve is I hope they do what Microsoft did, because I think
we talked about this last week, right? This notion that if you pick up like an iPhone or an iPad or a Chromebook or an Android phone, every once in a while, you got to sign in again. And it's like, oh, for better security, you can't use the fingerprint or the camera or whatever. What are you talking about? Like, that's those things should be more secure than typing in a password. I don't understand that. But anyway. Yeah,
one would think, but I guess
one would objectively know that it's more secure. But
right. I'm going to let Mary Jo answer this question. What the hell is Windows Holographic?
Yeah. So the only reason I put this in here is last week we were speculating maybe Patch Tuesday would be the day Microsoft started rolling out Windows 10 21H1. Well, that didn't happen, but they did roll out a version of 21H1 for the HoloLens, and the operating system on the HoloLens is called Windows Holographic.
Of course it is.
So it has a bunch of new features. I think it has more features than we're going to get in 21H1 on regular PCs. You get the Chromium-based edge. You get swipe to type on your holographic keyboard, more granular controls, a new power menu. You can display multiple user accounts on the single sign-in screen. So there's a lot in 21H1 for the HoloLens. But did we get it for regular PCs? No. Instead, we got a cumulative update for people who are in the insider channels, for 21H1, but still no sign of 21H1.
Okay. There you go. But you could do it on the HoloLens if you want.
You could.
Can we?
But this was interesting.
Can we glean anything from the HoloLens version?
No, they're like not even really. They're both Windows 10 in name, but like not really the same operating system.
Oh, okay.
Not really. But I don't know if you noticed this, Paul. I saw this on ghacks.net. Microsoft took away all the safeguard holds for 20H2 and 2004. So you know how they had all these things like, if your PC has this driver or that driver, we're not going to give you the newest version of Windows because it might not work. Well, they took away all those holds. I don't know if they just took them away like, they're all gone now, or if they actually fixed them. I'm not sure, but
I'm going to take an educated guess on that one. Probably the first one.
Maybe. Although, they say things, how when people file bug reports, they say, we're never going to actually fix that. But we're just going to take it off the list. I didn't know if they were.
Your feedback is important to us.
Yeah. So anyway, I feel like they've cleared all the possible decks for 21H1, and we don't know when we're going to see it. But
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks for the update.
I'm sorry, real quick on 21H1. Wasn't one of the thoughts that yesterday could have been the first day we might have seen it?
Yeah, but we didn't.
We didn't. Yeah. Okay.
All I know is yesterday was the last day of the rest of my life.
Was it?
Or something.
Or was it the previous day of
the first day of the last
life?
The end of the I don't know.
Was it the release preview version? No,
exactly.
It was
Leo 21H1.
It was Leo 0.9.
Our show today brought to you by Melissa. Very nice stuff. I like Melissa. Had a great conversation with the Melissa team some weeks ago. If you have a customer list, it might be as simple as just a mailing list. I mean, we have a Christmas card list. It could be where you send your catalogs. It could be people that have bought your product that you want to keep in touch with. All of that. You should know something. It's going bad even as we speak. It's rotting away. Like sour milk, 30% of your customer data goes bad every year. the last thing you want to do is open up your customer list and find all that bad stuff. What you really don't want to do is mail things or email things to those addresses because they may be long gone. That's why you need Melissa. Melissa makes sure they're the address experts. They make sure your data is accurate and current so you reach the people you want to reach. Their tools have helped businesses maintain fresh data for over 35 years. Wow. That's why over 10,000 businesses trust the address experts. What can you verify? Everything. Addresses, of course, but also emails, phone numbers, even names. Customers like it when you spell their names right. It's just a little thing, but just getting that right is fantastic. Melissa helps you do that. And Melissa's global address verification service works for addresses in over 240 plus countries and territories at the point of entry. And that's important. You can validate existing customer data, find new customers as your customer service rep starts typing in, or even your customer on a form on your webpage starts typing in the information. Even, customers make mistakes as they're typing in there. I do all the time. I get mail all the time with my numbers transposed because I've entered the wrong address. Melissa would fix that. And if you've got duplicates, that's a bad thing. That's a money waster, right? Melissa's data matching can eliminate clutter, and duplicates can increase the accuracy of your database and thereby reduce postage and mailing costs. You can even use Melissa to add publicly available information so that your customer profiles are richer, more useful. Add demographic information like property data, marital status, social media handles, all that's in the public. Melissa can add it. Suddenly you've got just this, imagine a customer on your webpage starts typing their name and it pre-populates. They don't have to type anymore. You've experienced that, I'm sure. It's Melissa. That's because Melissa has an API, but they have many ways to deploy. There's an on-prem version of it you can just run on your computer. There's a web service. There's secure FTP processing, lets you upload a address list, then download the cleaned up one, the good one. It's got SaaS delivery options, a fantastic API. And by the way, you should know, and I'm sure you care about this, your customers certainly do, that Melissa protects the privacy of all your data. In fact, they continually undergo independent security audits to reinforce their commitment to your data's privacy, but also security, so that it can't, you don't want to have that breached, and compliance requirements like SOC 2, HIPAA, and GDPR. Yes, it's compliant with all three. Melissa, good news. Congratulations to Melissa for being named a leader in address verification by G2 Crowd in their spring 2021 report. The leader, they're the ones. They're the address experts. Melissa is supporting communities and qualifying essential workers during the pandemic. Your organization could qualify for 6 months of free service. Find out by applying online at melissa.com. So bottom line, don't put up with sour customer contact data. Try Melissa's APIs in the developer portal. It's easy to log on, sign up, and start playing in the API sandbox 24/7. Get started today with 1,000 records cleaned free. Melissa, melissa.com/twit. Melissa.com/twit. And thanks, Melissa, for supporting Windows Weekly. Thank you, Windows Weekly fans, for supporting us by using that address so they know you saw it here. Melissa.com/twit. Thank you, Melissa. Back to Paul and Mary Jo, and it's time to talk Microsoft 365. I've finally gotten used to saying that. Microsoft.
And thank you for not saying 365.
365er.
I don't know why that bugs me, but
I'm going to make sure to say it that way all the time.
It is 365. Is that right?
Well, it's, if you are of the British or Indian persuasion, it's 365, I guess.
365. So. Okay. So, well, we got to, it's a broad, big world out there.
It is.
Yep. So what is new in 365?
Well, of course, we can't have a week without Teams, right? Teams is everything.
It's really amazing how committed they are.
It is.
That. Wow.
You should just see the list of features that I hear about every single week. Here's new to Teams this week, right? So this week, it's kind of a big deal, actually. They are adding a webinars feature to Teams. So you know how a lot of people use third-party webinar products, software and services of all kinds. Microsoft's going to build this right into Teams, their own webinars capability. So The feature supports 1,000 attendees, but up to 10,000 people in view-only broadcast mode. And because of the pandemic, Microsoft's actually extending that number to 20,000 people per view-only broadcast through the end of calendar 2021. And are you wondering how much this costs? If you have most of the Microsoft 365 plans, it doesn't cost you anything extra. If you have like E3, E5, A3, A5, the government G3, G5 plans, or even the business standard and business premium, you're getting this for no extra cost. So you can start running webinars and doing all the things you do around webinars, like, sending out registration emails and getting your data back at the end. How many people attended? What did they think of the conference? And exporting that data to your CRM system. So yeah, this is like a pretty big thing to throw into Teams for no additional fee. But yeah, you're going to get it. You're going to get it. And you're going to get it. Everyone.
Well, people pay a lot for this software, webinar software. So it's nice that it's built in.
I know. For a while, we thought Microsoft was going to require an extra subscription because there was some lingo around Teams Pro, blah, blah, blah. But no, they're not. You just get it as an option.
They would have been the wrong message during a pandemic to be like, hey, we did this thing you're all going to need. Oh, and you're going to have to pay.
Yeah. Right. But I think this is a big feature because right now, when people use Teams for meetings, it's mostly internal, right? Like you're doing a meeting inside your company. And this lets you extend it to
1,000 people in interactive mode.
I know.
Crazy. Like that's amazing.
It is. That's really a lot of freebies.
That's going to satisfy the needs of many customers.
A lot of people.
Like without,
I know.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I could see BWW using it, perhaps.
We just did a big webinar thing yesterday, and I think there were over 1,000 people. There, but we didn't need to interact with them, right? For the most part, other than
just listening. Yeah.
I mean, those guys were view only. I mean, there was chat occurring, right? And it was broadcast onto YouTube too, so you could chat there and all that stuff. But I mean, 1,000 people interactive. That's amazing.
I know.
What is Zoom? Zoom. Even you have to have a large meeting add-on if you want to do 1,000 people.
I think so, right?
Yeah. And you pay for that. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So, I have to say, not to throw cold water on this, but I wondered, are any of these third parties going to go after them for antitrust? When I saw this,
literally just thinking this,
right? Because I'm like, they just threw in a big thing for free.
There they go again, giving away stuff for free.
But you
pay.
If
you're a Microsoft customer, we love it. But.
So the primary revenue for Teams is through Microsoft 365, right? You get that as a benefit of subscriber.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
You don't buy Teams by itself, or could you? No,
not that I'm.
It's part of it's your Office deal.
Well, what's the cheapest commercial license? That web only thing must be what, $5?
It's like $5 a month or something.
So I mean, it's
pretty cheap.
Yeah, you're going to get it with that. So.
It's cheap.
Wow. Yeah, I pay a lot more for that just for basic Zoom.
Yeah.
It's too bad Teams isn't more, I don't know.
You know what they need, guys? We got it. The next version of Teams is going to be called Teams X. It's going to run everything in containers.
Yes.
We've solved it.
Yeah. This is going to be a challenge because as they make Teams bigger and bigger, it's going to get harder and harder to use.
SharePoint.
It's already
turning into SharePoint. That's exactly what's happening, isn't it? It's turning into SharePoint.
Well, from an end user perspective, it's like Outlook. It's big. It's bigger than Outlook. Actually, it's already surpassed Outlook.
What's PowerPoint Live? What is that?
Yeah. So there's two other things they're enabling. One of the two is so PowerPoint Live is available now. That's for people who are hosting presentations in Teams, and but also for attendees, right? Because one of the things that's kind of cool there is with PowerPoint Live, if you're an attendee, you can actually start skipping through the slides just for you to kind of see what things are going, what's going to happen, blah blah blah, what's happening. And then they're actually going to have slide translation capabilities in the near future so that you can select a native language and automatically have the slides translated for you on the fly. And again, that would just be for you.
So cool.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also presenter mode, which is partially rolling out this month. And then I think the rest of it's coming, I would say, well, they said soon. So maybe next month or the month after that. But these are just different ways to present a presentation, right? So in standout mode, which is the one that's available this month, the video, you're kind of in front of the shared, probably what's going to be a presentation, but whatever shared content you have, which is very common, like a game streamer would be like that. But sometime soon they're going to have reporter mode, which is going to look like a local news broadcast where the content's kind of up in a window, above you. And then side-by-side mode where you have the speaker and the content side-by-side. So webinars, PowerPoint Live, and standout mode, part of presenter mode, are available this month. And then the other two modes for presenter mode are coming soon.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. I guess it goes along with the webinars. I mean, you need both, right? You need that in your webinar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I don't want to go anywhere in a while. Like, it's going to be better just watching. And we're gonna sit in an audience and watch a presentation on our laptop because it's so much nicer.
Lisa's doing that all day today. The IAB upfronts are today. The Interactive Advertising Bureau. These are the podcast upfronts, which is basically networks pitching to advertisers and agencies and begging, please buy ads. Please.
I'd like to come out of the pandemic if we could.
Please. There's a lot of that. A lot of it was a little hard.
We sucked it up last year. What do you say?
Yeah, it was a little hard. So please buy ads.
I mean, I'm sure your kids ate, but I'm just saying, spread the wealth. So
she has to sit, watch presentations.
Right.
One after the other, just like dozens and dozens. It's a lot of that.
A lot of watching.
3 days worth. Let's see what else. Oh, JEDI. Wow. What's the latest on the Microsoft JEDI, the big contract win?
I'm gonna let Mary Jo handle this one because I think she has a better perspective on this than I do.
The JEDI thing is just dragging on and on and on.
This was the contract that Microsoft, Google, and Amazon were bidding for. Amazon thought
and Oracle,
too. Right?
Yep.
A $10 billion contract to basically provide cloud infrastructure for the Pentagon.
Yeah.
And Amazon
Modernized
thought, well, it's a
systems.
no-brainer. We should win this one. So they were a little upset when Microsoft won.
Actually won. Yep.
And sued, saying, that's because the President Trump doesn't like us.
Yep.
Doesn't like Jeff Bezos.
Yep.
And the lawsuit kind of threw it all up in the air.
There's reason to believe that's true, by the way. But
yeah.
Anyway.
In fact, a federal judge recently said she wasn't going to block Amazon's suit. So that means this is going to get all entangled even more with charge, countercharge. And meanwhile, Microsoft can't actually begin providing the technology for JEDI to the DoD. So there have been hints by the DoD that if this just continues to go on and on and on, they're just going to scrap it and maybe rebid the entire thing.
Start the process over.
Yeah. Which is just unbelievable. Or just scrap it and break it up into smaller contracts. That's another option.
Which, by the way, maybe is the right way to do this. Don't you kind of feel like Amazon would be better at some of this and Microsoft would be better at some of this? And maybe for any cloud computing contract, you should go with multiple vendors. Maybe.
Do I feel that way? I always thought it was odd. This was a winner take all because
right.
When they said it was a winner take all, I still assumed that the winner would subcontract parts of it to various vendors. Like if, Microsoft wouldn't actually supply every part of it. I don't know what's going to happen. This is $10 billion over 10-year contract. And if you notice, Microsoft, whenever they talk about it now, they go, by the way, we just won this $22 billion over a 10-year contract for the modified HoloLens. If it doesn't happen, it'll be bad, but at least we won that. So I don't know what's going to happen at this point, if they're just going to scrap it, break it into other contracts or what, but I feel like it's looking less and less certain that Microsoft is just going to walk off and do what originally they were awarded to do.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just encumbered at this point. You don't.
It is.
My God, it's been salted. I mean, I don't know how you recover from this, but
I know.
a lot of people have said, oh, $10 billion to Microsoft, it's like pocket change. It's like, okay, like relax for one thing. That's ridiculous. But I do think a big aspect of a big part of this is just the foot in the door part of it, right?
That's what the Discord is saying it's the door to a lot more business. It's just the beginning.
I think so.
Yeah.
And if this thing goes successfully, that they'll be able to sell Microsoft 365 across the government in ways they haven't. Well, maybe they already have. I don't know. But
yeah, they are. They're still already selling a lot. Yeah, I feel like Microsoft has a really strong position with the DoD. Like they're one of the very few tech vendors that isn't pretending or actually saying like, okay, we'll look at this so that, appeasing people who are like, we don't want this used in warfare. Microsoft's more like, hey, somebody has to sell to the DoD.
Microsoft's like, look, war's going to happen. Do you want to win the war or do you want to?
Patriotic.
That's kind of their thing. That is, I'm telling you, that's their position.
Yeah. I wouldn't put it that way. I would just say, look, it's historically, industry in America has supported our military.
Yeah. Sure.
And, a strong military is good for, peace as well as war.
And you can see the long-lasting impact of that. If you visit Bethlehem Steel down the road from me, it's going great today.
But they build a lot of battleships in World War II.
By the way, they absolutely helped us win the war. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and so did Ford and a lot of other companies.
Right.
So it's funny, it's the great tradition of American industry that you build stuff for defense. Not only is it like a good living, it's the right thing to do.
It's always fine when corporations collaborate with the government, unless it's the Chinese government. So just don't worry about it. It's fine.
Right. Those guys, they're not doing their cloud. No way.
No.
Yeah. I bet the Chinese government doesn't have a big, long bidding process for that sort of thing. No. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. What else? There's a major bug in Outlook Desktop. Oh, I didn't hear about that.
It's already fixed.
Patch Tuesday was yesterday, right?
Yeah. And coincidentally, that might be what caused it.
Oh, really?
I don't know. Yeah.
Well, that's the theory. It was some kind of a Patch Tuesday patch
that caused the bug.
Went wrong.
Oh, Lord.
So it was only the Windows version of Outlook, right? It wasn't Outlook for the web or any other versions of Outlook that were hit by this. And so when you typed, your words would disappear when you hit the carriage return.
Oh, I thought it was just when you read email. That's funny. That's even worse.
Hysterical.
It was something like that. And people were like, hey, wait, I'm typing an email and it's just disappearing. Like, what's going on?
That's not good.
Sometimes you could see like just the first line of an email and sometimes it would just be completely blank. And, maybe that's a sign it's time to just call it quits for the day,
No, and earlier in the week, they had a quarantine issue with Outlook also where email that was valid was being marked as spam and quarantined. So that hasn't been a good week for Exchange and Outlook, really.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Just throwing it out there that the web client is fine. So
yeah, it is.
Maybe people who couldn't access their email checked it out and they'll make.
You hate Outlook. You hate native Outlook though, right? Like you like Outlook.
I hate native Outlook in ways that I just don't hate other Microsoft programs. I've never. No, that's not true. Outlook 98 was the last good version.
Wow. Okay.
What I say the same thing, but what can you codify? I mean, the thing I always hated was the hairball PST file. That's
just a big chunk of it.
Created nightmares because you shouldn't store everything in one big binary file. It's just too corruptible. What else?
Well, Outlook is a lot like a lot of Microsoft software. So it came of age at a certain point in time. It addressed a certain need, and that certain need at the time was Microsoft email. It was not an internet email client in the beginning. So it was like Mappy or whatever you call that. And they eventually added internet email capabilities. But it's always been this kind of big, heavy, multiple view kind of app.
That's my problem with it. Yeah.
But it's so local oriented. Like it's not a view of, like it's not as we think of email clients today, which are kind of lightweight and they sync with the client immediately. And you're just seeing a view of what's in the cloud. Like, it still has those underpinnings of download locally.
Right.
It
still thinks it's doing pop, even though it's not.
It's just, it's just.
Or Mappy.
It's just too much. I like the web clients. I like the mobile client. Actually, I use Outlook on my phones. I mean, I like it. I wish I could use that app on my computer. I would consider it.
Yeah.
But
I still
Outlook.
I still like, what was the old email program that came with Windows? I really liked that.
Mail and News, and
before that it was Outlook Express. Outlook Express.
Outlook Express.
I liked that.
Yeah.
I did too. And then it became Windows Live Mail, which I also liked for the time.
Yeah.
But it kind of went off the.
Outlook Express was everything you needed.
Yeah, as Hotmail turned into Outlook.com, at some point after that transition or during that transition, that the web client became good enough that if you were in that, if that's what you were using, you'd be better.
See, I don't like webmail. I know I'm unusual in that respect. Most people, Gmail, if not Outlook.com, people love webmail.
What do you use for email?
I use Fastmail, which is an IMAP provider, and then I use IMAP clients. Heavy duty.
Yeah, like what? So what?
Clause Mail is my favorite because
you don't use Pegasus or Eudora.
I've used Pegasus, Eudora. I went out of Thunderbird, but Steve Gibson still uses Eudora.
Oh, I used all of these things for many years. Yeah, for sure.
There were some really weird named Windows email programs. Was there one like the Beehive or something? I can't remember the name of it. They had very, very odd names, and I tried them all.
There's more of this stuff on the Mac than on Windows. These kind of.
There's much better apps for email, oddly enough, on Mac and Linux than there are on Windows, and that's probably because of honestly, that's probably because of Outlook. It's just like why would you write everybody uses Outlook, right?
No, and they're going to the one Outlook thing
the bat.
too, right?
That's what it was. The bat! Exclamation mark, not the B. The bat.
The bat.
That was actually a pretty good email client, but it's all old school. Yeah. The multi-paned interface, it's all very old school.
I just feel like after Lotus Notes, everything is good. Like you appreciate
after
every
Lotus
other
Notes.
Oh yeah, I agree with you.
Honestly,
I agree with you.
I think Outlook, which started life as Schedule Plus, and they threw an email module at it, is very much like Lotus Notes. I mean, it's of the same mindset, same era.
I don't know, man.
Thunderbird was another one that people.
Yeah, that's still around.
It's around, but it kind of went through some bad times, hard times.
Of course. Well, because they never changed it.
Yeah.
It was like, it's so old fashioned. But that thing is probably primarily IMAP and POP3 based, right? I mean,
but to its credit, it stores the email in plain text MBOX files. So you don't have that problem where your PST gets corrupted and lost. MBOX.
Which is like a Netscape thing, isn't it? Like
I mean, it's they're plain text mailbox files. It goes back to the early days, and it wasn't so bad. I think that there's a lot to be said for that.
I would say once or twice a year, because I'm dumb enough that I forget. I'll run Outlook and be like, maybe it's better now.
Yeah.
And then as soon as it comes up, I'm like, oh yeah.
It's kind of a pig.
I love the first sync is good. It's like you get a long weekend to kill because it's gonna take a while.
Clause Mail is open source. It's been around for a long time. I'm trying
clause like
like clause, like the clause of an eagle taking your mail and putting it somewhere. It's primarily Linux, but I think there's a Windows port for it, so you can use. There is. Yeah, experimental 64-bit build. It's experimental. I also part of the reason I use weird emails.
What is this? This looks like
it's back into the 80s.
Oh my god!
It's back into the 80s. Yeah.
I don't know.
A little retro email.
But see, one of the things I really need is really good filtration, and it supports Civ, which is a really excellent. Filtration protocol, but actually IMAP solves that because I can just use the filters on the IMAP server, and then so I don't know. It supports PGP too, which I still use. I'm very much in the 80s in email.
Yeah, well, 80s. I mean, email is of the 80s, really, when you think about it.
Yeah.
There's got to be something better, but there isn't.
I think
no,
there isn't.
Well, Microsoft will tell you that it's Teams. By the way, it's only a matter of time before you can get your email in Teams and we'll just
email
pretend
is
that
next.
never happened.
Absolutely.
Yep.
No, it's guaranteed.
I always say it's like when Samsung replaces Google Maps with their own maps thing, that's when you know they're serious about leaving Android. When Microsoft puts email in Teams, that's when you know they're serious about getting rid of Outlook.
Yeah. And I think that day is not far off.
And they've added everything else.
Why not? I mean, what else are you going to do?
I know.
So, brief story and totally predictable. Remember, Microsoft had that lawsuit over the server stuff that was in Ireland, and I can't remember the complicated thing that went on.
Yep.
Law enforcement. It was like a suspected drug dealer. He had email stored in Ireland, and the United States government wanted access to it. And I believe they eventually got it because it was synced to the United States. So I don't know, right?
But really now every country, including the EU and certainly China, requires that you have servers in country. And Microsoft, honestly, they already meet the GDPR requirements for this kind of stuff. They already have probably more data centers in Europe than whatever. I mean, to me, I sort of saw this and I thought, aren't they already doing this?
Me too. That was the first thing I said.
Yeah. So I guess, I don't know how it works today. I'm not sure exactly what happens. I don't know. Maybe it's possible for data redundancy. They're syncing, and maybe sometimes those servers might be outside of the EU. But anyway, if you're a commercial, or this is not for individuals, but if you're a commercial or public sector customer in the EU, Microsoft will be storing all of your data, all of the time, only in the EU by next year, meaning probably by the end of this year. Yeah. I thought they were already doing this, but
I know. I have a feeling the loophole around that was something to do with Azure Active Directory. Because I saw somebody post about this and say, so if you're hitting Azure Active Directory, this doesn't mean everything is actually in the country, or could that be in another country? And I'm guessing that's maybe related to why they're having to have this next step, right?
Okay.
I think, yeah.
It's good. It's smart. I mean,
it's good.
It's smart.
Yeah,
it's a good thing.
Yeah.
But
it's finally happening, folks.
Our weekly Linux segment.
This is Mary Jo and I were discussing some way that we could make up for the Xbox content, and she said, "You know what? I'm going to go Linux."
Good. Happy to hear it. You picked the thing that would cause Paul the most pain, didn't you?
I did. I was like, wait, what does he hate the most? Okay.
I'm going to do like just a 2-minute lap around the house.
Yeah. So I have 2 Linux related things, actually. Not as many as his Xbox list, but okay. The first is Microsoft is bringing its threat and vulnerability management capability to cover more than just Windows and Windows Server. It's covering Mac OS now and also Linux. Quite a few flavors of Linux are going to be covered. And what this means, if you have TVM is part of Defender for Endpoint, the product that used to be known as Microsoft Defender Advanced Threat Protection, now called Microsoft Defender Endpoint. Much easier, shorter. I never can remember that name, though. The TVM lets you see recently discovered vulnerabilities around applications and potentially misconfigured devices across these operating systems. So it's kind of like an alert thing, and then it gives you suggested remedies for if this is an alert, here's what we would suggest you do. So it's interesting they're bringing this to Linux and also to Mac OS. I believe it's in preview for those 2 operating systems at this point.
That's really interesting that they would do that.
I know, right?
I don't know why they would do that. Is it only scanning for Windows vulnerabilities?
No, it's scanning for vulnerabilities that affect those operating systems. And the reason is Microsoft knows it's a heterogeneous world, right? And especially during the pandemic, when people are configuring devices remotely and they have people running all different kinds of devices, they want you to use their security products to secure your perimeter. Look at me using security words that I don't even really understand. This is great.
Impressive.
I didn't even question that.
You just went with
them,
it.
And I was like, yeah, she knows what she's talking about. That's great.
It was all good. Yeah.
All right, I'm doing good bluffing. So let me try to bluff an even harder story now.
I know, this is what I'm really confused about.
Watch this one. Okay. You know this thing in Linux called eBPF?
No.
that stands for something Berkeley Packet Filter.
Oh, it's a firewall?
So eBPF is a tool for running sandboxed user space programs inside the kernel of Linux.
Oh, I do know this. Yes.
Okay. So now Microsoft's going to take that technology and they're going to port it to Windows 10 and Windows Server.
Huh?
My question is why? I'm very curious about the why, and I don't know what the answer is really. But I'm looking at it
on Linux. Why do we have?
So in Linux, it seems to be a very popular thing to use eBPF, right?
Is it only for security applications? Is that
no, it's so you can run. You can safely run user space software
in the kernel, right?
In the kernel, which is a risky, obviously.
Yeah. It is,
well,
right.
This is when NT went south, is when they started putting graphics. Was it graphics code or?
Yeah, and Linux has a modular kernel, so it's not unusual to do that.
Right. So my colleague at ZDNet, SJVN, says it's useful for network filtering, analysis, and management.
That was his original use, but it's gone beyond that, I think.
But now it's also for like basic APIs. He's like tool chains and APIs. I'm like, I don't know what he's talking about here, but all I do know is Microsoft is porting this technology to Windows and Windows Server. And they have a very complicated block diagram on their site showing you how they think they can do this. The part they don't really answer to my satisfaction is why are they doing this?
Yep.
Right?
Boy.
I think it's the other direction of the thing that you did before. So they put their security stuff on Linux so that Windows administrators who are used to it can use it with their Linux boxes.
That must be it. They
put this in the Windows kernel for Linux sysadmins who are used to using it on Linux can now do it on Windows.
I think they're going to go. I mean, so according to their GitHub page, it says it's especially useful extending an OS kernel for use cases such as DOS protection and observability. So I wonder if this isn't some kind of core kernel edition that will just make Windows more secure.
No. It's so that you can run your little tool on that you've been running on Linux, that you can run it now on
I think you're right.
Windows.
I think it's familiarity, right?
Yeah.
Like, so if you're a Linux sysadmin.
Which is a lot what they do nowadays.
They do, right.
That's kind of what WSL is all about.
Right. It's like, hey, you want to use Linux and you are in the Windows ecosystem? Let us make your life easier and give you the tool you know and love.
Because I always say, well, why don't you just use Linux? But what the problem is, there are a lot of sysadmins who have to use Windows or are using Windows. Yeah. But they want some Linux tools. And you know, I suspect that this is Microsoft, and this is actually very smart, saying use what you want. We want to make you at home either way. That's my guess.
That's my guess too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I freely admit that I'm completely guessing. I've never used this.
Yeah.
Don't know why.
So anyway, I thought it was interesting, and it's like, wow, they're taking all these technologies from Linux and they're bringing them to Windows.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So, really interesting.
Things that make you go, Right?
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Whatever you say.
And that was our Linux pick of the week.
The segment. Linux segment in a nutshell. Linux is everywhere. We do a weekly Linux show now on the network and the Discord. It's wild.
I'm surprised that never happened before.
Because I'm such a Linux nerd.
Well, because of what you said. I mean, Linux is everywhere.
Linux is awesome.
All right, settle down. Okay.
Let's not go that far.
We should do an Xbox show is what we should do. Paul, and actually I want to ask you, Paul, Build's coming up, right? Next Tuesday. And you too, Mary Jo, are you guys going to be doing your usual after the keynote, Paul and Mary Jo thing?
I guess we are not.
So it's still 2 weeks away.
It's the 18th.
No, Build is the 25th, right?
Oh, I'm thinking of the Google thing is the 18th. Build's the 25th. Yeah.
Yep. So we haven't heard if we aren't yet.
If you aren't, we're going to cover the keynote because you told me to.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I would love for you to join me if you want.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll let you know if they try
if you're not otherwise occupied.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They would tell you by now. Maybe not.
They told us pretty late last year.
Yeah. I haven't heard anything, so I don't know.
No, me neither.
I mean, we've done everything we can to upset them.
We have.
No, they love
I know.
you.
Understand.
No, every time digital transformation, how many more eye rolls can I do?
This time we're going with iJustine. I just want to let you know.
Yes, exactly. It's only a matter of time before that kind of.
We've got some influencers. We realize you have zero influence. So
there's a 12-year-old that reviews toys on YouTube. We're going to bring her out.
That's literally.
That's how I go down.
That's who we're going to be displaced by.
That's literally the future.
Yeah.
All of this, everything we have built here is going to be replaced by a 12-year-old who opens toys.
Yeah, who needs experts? You know, when a plumber comes to my house, I want to hear what his wife has to say about it. You know, like why not just bring in anybody?
Do you have a YouTube channel I could watch?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you for the Linux segment, Mary Jo Foley. And now, for those of you who are still here, it's time for the Xbox. The Xbox segment with Paul Thurrott.
Oh, boy. There's a lot going on this week in Xbox.
Oh, boy.
Believe it or not. So you may have heard there's a little court case going on, Epic v. Apple.
Oh, yeah.
Apple v. whatever.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Lots of good stuff coming out of this. One of them is, and I know people listening to this, some people are going to say, we already knew this, but Microsoft executive, where's her name? Why can't I find her name? Xbox Vice President Lori Wright was explicitly asked, how much margin does Microsoft earn on the sale of an Xbox console? And she said, we don't. We sell the consoles at a loss.
Wow.
And then the lawyer asked, just to be clear, does Microsoft ever earn a profit on the sale of an Xbox console? She said, no.
Wow.
So that's been my understanding for a long, long time. In fact, many years ago, 16 years ago, I was this very month, 16 years ago, I was visiting Redmond to see the Xbox 360 after it had been announced, but they didn't have the final hardware. And I had two big questions from this event. One was about the console form factor itself, because at the time, you may recall, the development platform was two tethered Mac G5, Power G5 towers, right?
Got in a little trouble for that, right? They used that V3.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. And then he had like a hand controller kind of connected to it with the USB cable. So I was like, well, that's an impressive little bit of hardware there. I mean, how are you going to squeeze that down to a little box? And they said, we got people working on that. And that didn't go very well. But the other one I asked was, so how do you make money on this thing? And they said, well, we have a plan to cost reduce this thing over time. And our goal is by the time the end of the run comes, we will be making money on the hardware. And that never happened. Right. So, and now we know that for a fact. So
wow.
So this is but look, Sony almost never makes money on the sale of hardware either. Right. These companies, the plan is to do the razor blade thing. Right. They make money on the software and the services. And you've seen how the services have expanded pretty dramatically over the past couple of years. There's a reason for that. Those things can be profitable. It also raises the question, I would say those things are probably often profitable for Microsoft. Is the Xbox business as a whole profitable? And my guess is that they have had profitable quarters. And my guess is that over time they have not been profitable. And this explains the push to cloud services now, because that's a market in which Microsoft could, be very profitable. So I thought this was interesting. Got a lot of poo-pooing from people like, oh, we already knew that. Everyone knows that, you idiot. It's like, okay, relax. But Nintendo, by the way, they make profits from hardware sales. So I guess they're the Apple of this business or something. So they're able to do that. That's cool. Good for them. Anyway, a couple of things related to component availability issues and then the resulting problems finding the new consoles, right? So we know the Xbox Series X and S have been next to impossible to find. If you're lucky, you'll walk into a Target one day and there's one sitting there for some reason because they just came in, but it's really hard to gauge. And I hear from people regularly who are trying to find these things. Same thing with Sony, right? I mean, Sony just had this record quarter. They sold more PS5s in the launch time frame than they did PS4s somehow. They could have sold probably twice as many or more if they just had more of them to sell. But, this is the world we live in today. So tied to this, of course, is that scalpers are buying these things. And scalpers are, have figured out how to beat the system. They buy multiple consoles and then they sell them for a huge markup. So Microsoft, was it today or yesterday, announced something called the Console Purchase Pilot Program. It's for people who are in the Xbox Insider Program. It's not a guarantee you're going to get a console. I don't know why Microsoft can't just have people sign up on a list and get it when it's available, but they're not doing this. It's a little bit of a lottery in the sense that the space is limited and not everyone who registers is going to be selected and not everyone's going to get it. But the goal here is to kind of appease their best fans who've been complaining very loudly. Here we are, 6 months in? People still can't buy these things. Sony just said they probably will have component shortages through the end of next year. Not this year, by the way, next year. So I think this is maybe their first baby step toward kind of addressing the complaints we've seen in the community. But, there's always something to complain about. And here's one. It's only available in the United States. So if you live outside of the United States, you know how that feels. And so I already mentioned all the Sony stuff.
It feels fantastic. Especially when I'm on the Champs-Elysees, eating a croissant, having a cup of espresso. Oh, no, sorry. Yep. No,
well, I hope that feels good because one thing you're not going to be able to do is get an Xbox.
I will not need an Xbox because I would have my croissant.
Yep. What else we got? Oh, so and Nintendo, like I said, they actually, they make a profit on hardware, and these guys have now sold 85 million Switch consoles, 28.8 million last year alone. They are expecting to sell, let me see if I can find this exact number. Yeah, 25.5 million. Sorry.
I bet you it's the same model where they don't probably make a lot of money on the Switch, but they make money on the games, right?
Oh, of course. But they actually do make money. I mean, and this is the thing, Nintendo is unique, right? They come to market with this thing. It's kind of...
They never update
quirky,
it. It's old.
Yeah, it's a quirky thing. It's not. It's like 1080p at best, I think.
Yeah, it is.
Not 4K. And it was like, oh, this is so cute. And then they sell like 85 million of them. It's like, and they made money, on every one of them.
Yeah.
So they're saying for this year, they expect to sell 25.5 million units, which is less than last year, but that's because of the component shortage. This is like, they sell it's crazy. Like the units, I mean, they're going to sell 190 million units of their software this year for this thing. It's incredible. So
yeah. And I bet you they do make a little bit on each console. Because it's not cutting edge,
Right. Yep. Yeah, like you said, they don't really change it. So
right, they have a 4K version coming up this Christmas. That's going to be the big update.
So 5 years in or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah, good for them. I mean, Sony has already, or maybe it was a rumor, but Sony obviously will cost reduce their PlayStation 5 and will probably redesign it because let's face it looks ridiculous, but it is humongous. And Microsoft will do it too. I mean, the Xbox Series X and S will receive some
right.
Whatever. We don't know what they're going to be, but the goal is always to make these things as cheaply as possible. And then the real goal is to stop making them because seriously, all they do is lose money on them. But we'll get there.
We'll get there.
And
finally,
yeah. So in the old days, and by the old days, I mean like 2 years ago, Microsoft each month or each quarter, every once in a while would release like what they would name like a monthly Xbox update. And that update was like a dashboard update for the console, which at the time was the Xbox One. Things have gotten a little more complicated since then because now we still have Xbox One. We have Xbox Series X and S. We have Xbox on PC. We have Xbox mobile apps. We have xCloud. We have Xbox family sharing. Xbox is like all of a sudden is like this giant thing and it's everywhere. So they still announce these monthly updates, which aren't every month, but we'll call them monthly updates. And now they're for everything. So there's like little things that are here or there or whatever. And so this month they've had updates for Xbox Series X and S and One, and for the Xbox app on mobile only, not the one on Windows, and for Xbox Family Safety. So whatever. The big stuff here is quick resume, which I think is I'll say literally is probably the best feature of the Xbox Series X and S, is getting better load times, which is amazing, and better reliability. And they're adding a quick resume tag, so when you view stuff in the store or on games you have on your console, you'll know which games have quick resume, which is just kind of common sense. They're adding audio pass-through for media apps. So if you use things like Disney Plus, Apple TV, Plex Voodoo, and other apps, you can pass the audio through the HDMI if you have a supported HDMI device, and that will provide you with a better quality audio experience if you have an external sound system. Most of the rest of this is not particularly interesting, but on the Xbox Family Settings app, one of the deals there is the kid can ask you for approval to play a single multiplayer game rather than in the past where it was like, can I play multiplayer games? So you might say no to Call of Duty, but say yes to whatever Disney silly thing is or whatever. My kids are too old for me to worry about this stuff. And that's most of it. So it's actually I should add, one Xbox app is going away. Thank God. The Xbox One Smart Glass app, which auto installs on my PC after I sign in because for some reason, I don't know. This is out of date now. This used to be a way, there was different things you could do with it, but I think the big thing I used it for was it would work as like a remote control on a phone or a tablet. So if you're using an Xbox for media, you could bring up like a virtual version of a controller. And it was kind of it was easier to control stuff like media playback than with like a hand controller or whatever. But we now have multiple apps on PC and on, let me just look, because on the PC we have the Xbox Game Bar, that's just built into Windows. There's an Xbox Console Companion, which will eventually disappear, just like Smart Glass. And then there's the new Xbox app. And the new Xbox app is the way you play xCloud games. And you can do other things too, but I think that's the primary point of it, is to play xCloud.
Nice.
Anyhow, that's a lot of random Xbox stuff this week for some reason.
Well, but is it so very random? It really all has some commonality.
You think there's a deeper meaning?
Yeah.
It's full of stars. I don't know.
I don't know either. But I thank you for that exciting update. Now we are going to go to the back of the book, the highlight of the day, as far as I'm concerned. Let me just check. Are we having beer, wine, or cocktails?
Beer.
Oh,
I have a major update.
What?
You may recall we've had a bunch of cocktail selections for my wife. My wife is a big fan of grapefruit-based cocktails.
Yes.
We had one specifically called If Nana Only Knew.
Yes, I remember.
Sadly, that woman has passed away.
Oh,
and,
no.
She never knew.
We got a text message from our neighbor. Matt said, hey, I just want to let you guys know my grandmother passed away. She's 100 years old, so don't feel too bad. She had a long life. She was spending approximately $21,000 a year sending grapefruits all over the country to her grandkids. I don't know what the heck that was about.
My grandma used to do that too, by the way. I used to get the ruby grapefruit from Florida.
That made sense in like the 80s. Yeah. But like today, you can walk into any supermarket and get anything. We
Look what I got
from Mexico and Chile.
From Florida, it's a grapefruit.
Yeah.
Look at the size of that. Yeah.
So being the sensitive person that I am, of course, I text back and I said, listen, I feel bad about your grandmother, but what does this mean to our grapefruit supply? Because,
And the answer?
I'm going to send Paul.
I can't
get ready for your Harry and David's monthly basket of fruit.
Their grapefruits are good.
They're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It'll be from Maine, but it's okay.
He'll be from Maine.
Maine grapefruit
from Maine.
They're a little small.
So what's a Maine grapefruit? It's actually a potato that was growing in a root cellar.
It's a lobster.
It's a lobster. Here we go. Ruby red grapefruit from Harry and David.
So good.
Let me just get this set up.
They're as big as your head.
They are
They're
huge.
Really?
7 grapefruit, 8 pounds.
Yeah.
They're
big.
What?
You
could actually use these as dumbbells if you're working.
You could work out with them.
Bowling balls, guys.
Yeah.
Don't do though. I did this today. I did the ball slam. You wouldn't want to do that with the red grapefruit.
No, with right. I don't know. Maybe a Maine grapefruit.
Maine grapefruit. They're hot as a rock.
It just bounces right back up.
Actually, cranberries painted yellow. Our show today brought to you by, we will get to the back of the book in just a bit with our beer of the week and more, but our show today brought to you by Udacity. Are you looking to take your tech skills to the next level? You're listening to this show. You're obviously a geek at heart, right? Well, you ought to know about Udacity. UDACITY. It's like Audacity without the A. It's the fastest, most efficient way to master the skills top employers are looking for. Because Udacity partners with the best companies in the world, asks them, what is it you need people to know, not necessarily the stuff they learn in school, and then puts together these nano degree programs, part-time online educational programs designed to bridge the gap between what you've learned in school and your career goals. As part of their nano degree programs, you can put in just, 5 to 10 hours a week. And in as little as 3 months, you can learn a suite of employable skills. It's happened to so many people. They literally got jobs thanks to Udacity. That's because Udacity partners with Microsoft and Google and IBM and Amazon, among others, so you can learn the skills that these companies need in today's tough job market. And the companies know you have the skills because Udacity's nano degree programs are legendary. Of course, you'll view online courses. They've got the on-demand videos, but that's not all. You'll also complete a series of projects and even maybe some support courses designed to help you develop job-relevant skills. And they have some great free ones, too, building a portfolio on GitHub or LinkedIn, which is really important if you're looking for a job in programming, for instance. And you can learn to network, also super important, how to get noticed, how to land the job you want. Udacity lets you work at your own pace any time of the day or night because most Udacity students have day jobs or other jobs, and they're looking to get these skills so they can get a better job. The most sought-after nano degrees at Udacity for consumers and business clients alike, among the top 10, data engineering, data analyst, product manager, C++, digital marketing. These are great industry-leading programs designed and recognized by top companies worldwide. And what a success. Now, 14 million people in over 240 countries using Udacity. Programs in AI, in cloud computing, data science. You want to build the next generation of self-driving vehicles, autonomous systems, programming, and more. You get real job skills, employable skills through project-based active learning. I like the projects because you have to actually, they're hands-on, you actually have to do it. It's one thing to absorb the information and watch the videos, but then you have to put it to work. And that, that's really where the rubber meets the road. And that's why employers love Udacity, because they know you can do it. You can do the job. Your projects are reviewed by qualified professionals. If you need it, you can get real human help. They've got mentors available 24/7. If you're doing coding, they'll have personalized code reviews, which really is good because it prepares you for real life. This is what you're going to have, how it's going to be in the real world. And because, they know you're doing this as, to build skills, to get a better job, they offer flexible payment options and scholarship programs. You can learn at your own pace and schedule. And of course, have free programs. I love to mention Francisco Gutierrez. He wanted to work in tech, but he couldn't afford to get a 4-year degree. So he participated in the Grow with Google Udacity Challenge and did win a full scholarship for the Mobile Web Specialist Nano degree. After going through the program, Microsoft gave him an internship. He shined there. They gave him a full-time role as a software engineer. That's where he's working right now, all thanks to Udacity. Technology is disrupting enterprises across every industry. If you have a team in your business that you want to upskill, I think that's the modern phrase, upskill, Udacity for Enterprise can help you do that. Check out their website today for your team as well. Get the in-demand tech skills you need to advance your career. Visit udacity.com/twit, UDACITY, udacity.com/twit. You get 30 days free access so you can see exactly, what's out there. It's a great way to sample a bunch of different courses to find the ones you like. It's a $399 value, so don't miss out. Udacity.com/twit. You have till May 31st, 2021. Udacity.com/twit. We thank you so much for supporting Windows Weekly. Now, this week, Paul Thurrott will give us a tip of the
I'll
week.
give you 2 tips.
2 of them.
2 tips. One of them don't take too seriously.
Okay.
Back in February, Microsoft announced that it was adding password autofill capabilities to Microsoft Authenticator on mobile, as you may recall. And then probably about a month ago, I wrote about it, and I had it as a tip on this show. And I just wanted to kind of reiterate this because Google is talking about this passwordless future. And this is how this is part of the way you enable this for yourself today using Microsoft technology. So the first step, of course, is it's actually 2-step verification called 2FA. You need to enable that on your Microsoft account, which you should have done years ago. But if you haven't, seriously, please, this is the time. And you don't have to use the Microsoft Authenticator app. You can use any Authenticator app, but the Microsoft app actually gives you the best experience by far. And it gives you that, oftentimes you get a code on the screen, go to your phone, select the right code, thumbprint, however you're signing in. Super secure, super smart, and you can live that dream today. So just a reminder, that's out there. It's available. Be sure to do it. Surface Duo, as you may recall, launched in September, maybe last year. It was a little expensive. There have been deals since then. There is a place I've never heard of, but it's BuyDig is now selling the Surface Duo for $700. It is still available. It is new. It's not refurbished. Get a free pair of earbuds. I don't seriously recommend it, but I feel obligated to at least mention it. I know some people might want to pick one up cheaper. I will say $700. That's kind of where we're at today for I call mid-level smartphones. Like the Google Pixel 5 is probably roughly $700. It's not like they fixed all the problems, but again, if you know what you're getting into, I just wanted to mention it. Don't buy one, seriously. But
it makes me mad. I paid $1,500.
I know, double, right? Yeah.
But it's probably worth $700.
700 might be the right price. Yeah, I remember thinking $1,000 would have been expensive, but
what is BuyDig? Is that like remainders? Like they're clearing them out?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I've never heard of the site.
Neither. I think the fact that it's that low means Surface Duo 2 is fairly close to launch.
Yeah,
that could be. It probably is that kind of remainder place. Clearance, whatever.
Yeah.
But I've never heard of it. So
it's the Internet's digital superstore offering everyday low prices on HD TVs, digital cameras, notebook computers, GPS devices. Oh, yeah. They're clearing stuff out for sure.
And they're right in Edison, New Jersey. So.
Edison, New Jersey. For dads and grads. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
It's a clearance place. It's like Repo Depot.
Don't do it.
Don't.
I say wait for Duo 2. That's my.
When would that be? Would that be soon?
I would guess in the next 2-3 months. Really? I would guess. Maybe even early fall, but like this year is the rumor.
Right.
So.
Yeah. They sell a lot of stuff. I searched for Duo and I got luggage. I got camera lenses. I got a DJI Phantom bumper guards. This is amazing. So far I haven't seen this. Maybe if I type Surface Duo is probably not a good.
Oh, there's a link in the notes if you.
I'm not going to buy it. I'm just.
Yeah, please don't.
Unlocked. Well, see, $8.99 it says now.
Are you serious? Did it change?
It goes up depending on demand. You've done it.
Yeah.
No. So I'm not here. Follow the link that's in the notes because it says original price $8.99, but coupon applied $200.
Oh, there's a coupon.
By the way, expires on the 16th.
So don't delay. Don't act today. Okay.
Limited quantity available, and there wasn't enough space for the word quantity, so it's limited QTY available for some reason.
Limited cuties available.
Yep.
Well, all right. That's a good deal.
Yep.
It's glacier. Yeah. Glacier colored.
Glacier is how we describe the sales.
That's how the sales have been moving with glacier-like speed.
Yeah. Although these days glaciers are moving pretty quick, unfortunately. Anyway.
Wait a minute. It comes with a free wireless earbuds, too.
Yep. From that company we've all know and love.
LG.
No, it's not LG. Look at it. It's like, it's
LG Tone. Oh, the famous LG Tone.
I know. I don't know. Wow. Is that LG really? Oh, maybe it is. I'm sorry. It is. You're right. I'm sorry. It is LG. I don't know.
Something else they were getting rid of.
Don't get them for the earbuds.
Good. Yeah, this is good. This is an important link because I didn't get this link. Yeah.
Again, I felt obligated.
Wait a minute. This says Microsoft Duo 128 gigabyte unlocked PC tablet, but it's got a picture. Oh, there's the picture of the LG Tone earbuds. Yeah. That's a good deal. Those are worth $146 all by themselves.
I refuse to believe that's true.
Yep.
I don't know.
Wow. You just set me on a buy dig spree.
Like I said, I was a little nervous about this one, but there you go.
This is good.
Anyway, I've been doing a lot of testing of cloud gaming lately, and most of it is pretty lackluster at this point. But it occurred to me, the game I play the most is Call of Duty. Call of Duty is not a game you can stream, like you got to download it and play it. But Call of Duty is available on mobile. And of course, I've looked at it, but in the beginning, if I'm not mistaken, when it was first released, you had to play it with your hand, with your fingers. And
what do you play it with now, Paul?
Well, I'm sorry. I mean, like with multi-touch.
What are you talking about?
I use my mouth. What? No, but you know what I mean? Like multi-touch on the screen.
Yeah. Now you can use a controller is what you're saying.
Now you can use a controller. And I thought, wait a minute. I just got a new iPad. I have an Xbox controller, obviously. I'm like, I should try this thing. And it's funny. For mobile, it's a big game. And then really what you got to do, if you're going to play multiplayer, is you want to go into the menu somewhere. It's kind of hard to explain, but it will do it over time probably, but you can manually say, just download all the maps. And so the cool thing about Call of Duty Mobile is it has that Battle Royale mode from like Warzone, but it also has multiplayer. And on mobile, multiplayer is 5-on-5. And it's classic Call of Duty maps. And when you look at the maps that are available on mobile, like as a Call of Duty guy from like forever, I'm like, oh my God, yes. It's like all the awesome maps from all the games, going back in time. Like, this is excellent. And I thought, man, if this could work, like this might be pretty good. And let me tell you something, this works great. Like this game is awesome on mobile. And the one weirdism, if you've ever played a game like this, if you kind of you're running down like a hall or whatever, running outside with a gun, you can just shoot the gun, right? And the hardcore game modes that I play, or actually I play hardcore team deathmatch. You can kill the people on your team, and then you do that enough and you get booted or whatever. So in this particular game, if you aim your gun at anything that is not an enemy, it just clicks. So you can't even shoot. But if you're aiming at an enemy, then you can shoot. So you have to get rid of that or get used to that one little weirdism. But other than that, like honestly, it looks great. The levels look excellent. They're classic levels. So if you know Call of Duty, you're like, yes, awesome. And then the gameplay is actually really good. This is actually excellent. I'm surprised by how much I like it.
I'm looking for something to do with my new iPad, and now I know.
I don't know if there's like a controller, connector, so you can kind of put the iPad on the controller. Probably a little top heavy, but honestly, like the quality of the graphics is good. It's not obvious. This is not as good as a new console or like a PC, of course, but it's, for the size of the screen it is and everything. I mean,
but it's also nostalgic because you're playing the old.
Yes. Oh my. Oh, it's maps. Like these things are as well. I don't want to downplay the role my family has played in my life, but I mean, like these these levels
your
are
children.
Like,
is that what you're saying?
They're like actual memories. Like I know my way around these levels.
Yeah.
Immediately, and they're faithful reproductions. I mean, it's really nicely done. So
that's cool. I'm
surprised how much I like it.
No, it's one of those freemium things, right? You have to.
There is a lot of it's a busy app. I mean, the main screen where it's like your character standing there, there's all there's like 137 things going on there, but you can kind of just kind of muscle through it, and you just just don't worry about it, and just play this. You can just keep playing.
Nice.
And it's just every time a new level comes up, you're like, oh, nice. Like it's just really well done. Cool. I'm surprised I like it so much. Like I said, it's really good.
Nice. It's a good tip. I bought the new iPad, and it's got a great screen, but I don't know what I'm going to do with it. So maybe I'll just play Call of Duty.
Call of Duty's got to be one of the biggest games on the iPad right now. It's got to be. It's
got to be. Yeah.
Got to be.
It's not Fortnite. We know that.
It's no Fortnite. Yeah.
No, but that's okay.
Good, bad, or indifferent.
Can't get it.
It's not. Yeah, right.
Enterprise pick of the week with Mary Jo Foley.
So it's kind of hard to follow up running down a hall shooting a gun with an enterprise
thank you.
pick of the
Yeah,
week.
Exactly.
No, yeah.
But I'm going to do my best. My pick is about something that Microsoft was really hyped about 6 years ago, using blockchain as a service on Azure. And when you hear blockchain, you think of cryptocurrency, right?
Yeah.
But no, but blockchain is really a technology that is all about ledgers underneath, right? Like reconciling ledgers. So Microsoft created the service called Azure Blockchain as a Service, also known as Azure BaaS. That's the real name.
BaaS.
And they brought it to preview. They had a whole bunch of big banks who were very interested in the idea of using this technology that way. IBM was big into this too at the time. Like everybody was investigating how to use blockchain for commercial purposes, right? And then this week, very quietly slid into the Microsoft docs. Oh, by the way, we're killing it. So as of September 10th, 2021, no more Azure Blockchain as a Service. They're dismantling it. It's going away. You can't even add new what do they call them? New pieces of this technology to your existing Azure blockchain instances right now. So September 10th, 2021, that's it. It's over. Like you just can't use it anymore. So if you happen to have something working with Azure Blockchain as a Service, now is the time to migrate it and get off of it, because that's it. It's just going to be a clean cut. Microsoft's advising you to go to either Consensus Quorum blockchain service or opt to use blockchain inside of VMs. That's another option. Yeah. So boom, no more Azure blockchain. And it's funny, the reaction on Twitter to this, and people like, why did they even do this in the first place? Like, wow, shiny object. Glad that's gone.
Yeah, it was all a
like,
hot new thing. Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
Like in 2015, this was hot. Now, not so much, right?
Yeah.
Using Azure, using blockchain
It's
that
really
way.
interesting how quickly these fads.
I know. It was a fad.
It was a fad.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I doubt anybody used it, but there you go.
Well, they had some big banks. GE was a customer, and Xbox was a.
Oh, interesting.
So somebody was using it.
Oh,
but
that's really interesting.
I'm kind of curious what they're going to do with Xbox now to make up for that.
Right.
I'm sure they've already got a workaround, but yeah.
How about a code name, Mary Jo?
Yeah. So we talked a lot at the start of the show about 10X, and it's hard to remember way back when, but the original code name for 10X was Windows Light, and then the code name that we all started using was Santorini.
Oh, I love Santorini.
Yeah. So Santorini, I think, was actually the code name for the shell piece of Windows 10X. If you think about how Microsoft was talking about building Windows, they have Windows Core operating system on the bottom. And then the idea was you'd have all these different shells for different types of devices. Like there'd be a shell for the Surface Hub 2, a HoloLens shell, even a traditional Windows shell. And then the one for 10X, I believe, was codenamed Santorini, which a lot of people were like, yeah, Panos Panay, Greek, makes sense, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, so no more Santorini since there's no more 10X, but it was a good code name while it lasted.
I like the name.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do some beer.
Okay. So the beer picked today is from New Hampshire. There's a company in New Hampshire called Deciduous Brewing, and they make a lot of great beers of all styles. But I finally get to try this one that's very famous in their lineup called Lollipop Forest.
I love the name. Oh, my.
So if you think about lollipops, bright candy color, all kinds of shiny, delicious fruits. Yep, that's exactly what this beer is, right? So they have all different variants of this with different fruit combinations. And I got to try the one that was blueberry, blackberry, guava, and plum all mixed together to look like Hawaiian punch, kind of. I was a little skeptical of this beer when I popped it open. But as soon as I smelled it and tasted it, I was like, no, I was wrong. This was an excellent, what they call fruited sour, sour beer with fruit and milk sugar to keep it from being a little too sour. It had the nice tartness of a sour beer, but also you tasted the fruit and it smelled like fruit. So it was a really nice beer. I was very surprised. I was skeptical when I saw that bright, hot, pinkish, red, purple kind of color. But it does taste like a sour beer, not like some of the other beers I've been talking about lately where they don't even taste like beer. This one does taste like a beer. So
is it
if you ever
sweet,
see any,
though? Is it?
No, a tiny bit sweet, but mostly tart. In a good way. Like the milk sugar just takes the edge off it a little bit. It's very nice, not too high in alcohol. Just a really nice sour. So anything you see with deciduous, try it. And Lollipop Forest, any of the combinations, give them a whirl.
Very good. The Lollipop Forest. Don't get lost.
No grapefruit.
No grapefruit.
No grapefruit.
Sorry.
No. But all kinds of other good fruits, raspberries and all kinds of good stuff.
Oh, it's more than just blueberry, blackberry, plum, and guava.
Yeah, there's all different ones. There's like some with other different fruit combinations. I think they have like 5 or even more variants of this beer.
Nice.
Yeah.
Boy, it's amazing how many varieties of beer they are.
Yes, there is. Very, very amazing.
You got to just keep drinking just to keep up.
I take my beer research very seriously.
Really no other way.
So, there's no other way. Yeah.
That's a tip in its own right there. I mean,
it is. How to stay current, you have to drink a lot of beer.
Because if it's peanut butter whiskey, really, you don't have to, continue to You know it.
Yeah.
But when it comes to beer.
I had friends do a peanut butter and jelly cocktail with that thing.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
What was the jelly?
That's what I'm trying to remember. I believe it was a grape vodka.
Oh, interesting. Oh, that sounds really interesting.
It was interesting.
Yeah.
I just dipped bread in it and turned it into a sandwich.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, folks. We have come to the end of the show. I hate to say it, but we've got to the end of the rundown and there's nothing more after this. We just fall off the edge of the earth. So we're going to put Paul and Mary Jo back in the box, and we won't take.
Well, we can bicker in silence.
Yeah, take them out
until next week.
Yeah, we do this show every Wednesday around 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern time. That'd be 1800 UTC. If you want to watch us do it live, easy peasy. Twit.tv/live. There's live audio and video feeds there. If you're watching live, chat live. At irc.twit.tv. I kind of blew it. I wanted to do the Discord thing where we took questions for Paul and Mary Jo, and I just forgot this time. But it has been a fairly lengthy show. So
next time.
Next week we'll do that. If you the Discord is another place like the chat where you can chat, but it's a part of our Club Twit. And I do want to tell everybody about Club Twit because it's a way you can support all of our shows and get yourself some nice benefits. $7 a month. There's only one tier. There's no year subscription or anything. Just month to month, $7 a month. And what you get is ad-free versions of all the shows. You'll get a special feed, a URL you can put in your podcast client. So you get ad-free versions of all the shows. You also get this Discord, which is turning out to be really kind of fun. We have a live stage running, and you can go into the Discord, chat with others who are also listening to the show, just like the IRC, and then this live stage is open, and you can raise your hand and ask questions, and I apologize for not doing that earlier, but next week we'll do that. There are also some special content that's going on in there, like our Linux show. And there's a special feed, the Club Twit Plus feed. Everybody's got a Plus feed. Twit Plus is, unlike the Plus feeds on, some of the major streaming services, ours is really just scraps. It's the stuff that hit the cutting room floor before the show, after the show, little bits and pieces like that. Although we are going to be doing an interview with Andy Weir, the author of The Martian. He's got a new book out now, which is very, very hot. And the club gives us a chance to do some shows that we had to cancel because of lack of audience or lack of advertising support. Triangulation was one of them. I interviewed Andy Weir when The Martian came out, when Artemis, his latest, came out. He's got a new one, I think Project Hail Mary, and it's by all accounts his best yet. So I immediately
new audiobook reader though. You got to ask him what happened.
What happened to R.C. Bray, who did The Martian?
Which
That
was literally
disappeared.
the single best audiobook I have ever listened to.
Completely agree with you.
Ever.
And then they got Will Wheaton to do it, which is fine, but
he's great.
Not as good as R.C. Bray.
No, R.C. Gray was
and it's very puzzling. I will ask him about that if he can talk about it. Because R.C. Bray is not on this one either. So maybe there was.
Right, I've never heard of this guy.
Maybe something happened. But I'll ask Andy. Andy's a great guy. Look forward to talking to him. I think we're going to do that later in the month. Now, we will, of course, make that available to everybody. But people in the Discord will have a chance to ask Andy questions and things like that. So Club Twit has these we don't want to take away anything from, the vast majority of people who just, want to listen. So we have all the things we've always had, the Twit forums at twit.community, the Mastodon at twit.social, the irc.twit.tv. Those are still there and still free in all our shows. But we thought we'd do a plus, an additional thing, and so that's what Twit Plus and the Club Twit feeds and all of that are for. If you want to know more or subscribe, we would really appreciate it. It really helps us. Just go to twit.tv/ww. Twit.tv. No, that's Windows Weekly. Twit.tv/Club Twit. This show is twit.tv/ww. And when you go there, you will find the YouTube channel. You'll find links so you can subscribe in your favorite podcast client. And, of course, you can download all the shows direct from the website as well, audio and video. Paul Thurrott is at thurrott.com. That's his blog. But he's also got the field guide to Windows 10 available at leanpub.com. Constantly kept up to date. So, it's a great book to get if you want some help with Windows 10. Mary Jo Foley is at allaboutmicrosoft.com. That's her ZDNet blog. Did you try, Paul, the date fix?
Oh boy, I should have followed up with this. You know what? Sorry, I'll do this for next week.
I did it. It worked on mine.
So someone said there's a utility that lets you customize this to your heart's content.
Oh, even better.
So I'll tell you.
Because eventually they'll fix that bug. But I don't see the date right now.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll do that. I'll do that. Sorry, I meant to do that.
That's going to be tip next week. Yeah.
Yep. Zoned on that. Yep.
So thank you. Well, I guess all I can do now is say have a great week. We'll see you next time on Windows Weekly. Bye-bye.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that podcast episode. If you would like to check out more about tech news, then you should check out Tech News Weekly with me, Micah Sargent, my co-host Jason Howell, where we interview the people making and breaking the tech news every week.